Lyanthis was born into an unhappy family. Her mother died young, and her father, a drunkard and a philanderer, neglected his children. Fortunately, she had her older sister, Estella, who always looked after her and worried about her well-being. One day, Lyanthis realized that her life was mirroring the plot of a Carol Dahl novel she had read. According to the original story, her sister Estella was destined for a tragic end. Unable to bear the thought of her beloved sister facing such a tragedy, Lyanthis resolved to change the course of the narrative. How will Lyanthis face these difficulties? Can she successfully alter Estella's fate? Let's follow the story and find out. The story begins with a scene of dim moonlight filtering through a fence, the air thick with a foul odor and a biting chill. His teeth sank deep into her skin without a moment's hesitation. In this critical situation, Lyanthis could only offer feeble resistance. What happened? Wasn't that Mr. Arthur? But this was more than just a bite. Droplets of blood pulsed rhythmically. The beginning of this complicated affair traces back to her 20th birthday, when Emil came rushing to find her. Lena, hearing her name called, she instinctively turned around, the increasingly loud shouts leaving her somewhat bewildered. Renata, she asked him curiously. Emil, why do you seem so hurried? Emil, panting, replied, I've been looking everywhere for you. Renata quickly stepped aside, her eyes narrowed with suspicion. What's going on? You're looking for me, not Estella. Emil blushed awkwardly, retorting, So what? Am I only allowed to look for Estella? Tomorrow is your 20th birthday, right? I was too excited, so I brought your present early. With that, Emil produced a crimson ribbon and placed it in Renata's hand. Honestly, even a master can't resist a good opportunity. He then pulled out another ribbon, made of finer material, and asked Renata for a favor. By the way, could you give this to her as well? Hearing this, she seethed inwardly, thinking, I knew it. My gift was just an excuse, and that one looks much more expensive than mine. The shy young Emil was a sweet boy, the son of a tenant farmer, and a lovesick fool hopelessly infatuated with her sister. Renata, without hesitation, told Emil to his face, I won't give it to her, not even if you were perfect. He asked, puzzled, Do you see her as a rival? Emil was at a loss with Renata's stubbornness. You really are. She was going to bring that burlap sack to my family's farm. Thanks to his mentioning it, Renata suddenly remembered, oh, right, I was supposed to take that to Lady Lyanthis. Hearing this, Emil offered to help Renata. Then why don't I take it back for her? Since I'm already here, you should go have lunch with Estella. Grateful for the offer, Renata didn't hesitate to thrust the heavy sack into Emil's arms. She immediately left with a cheerful smile. How could I refuse such chivalry? Thank you so much, Emil. He struggled to hold the sack in his arms. Wait a minute, Renata, what is this? It's so heavy. Renata, not caring in the slightest, simply skipped away. Thank you so much for rescuing this damsel in distress. Emil, I'm Renata, an ordinary girl, perhaps a bit strong, living in a remote but peaceful village. My mother passed away when I was very young, leaving me with a frail and sickly father. However, things haven't been too difficult. Everyone in the village is very kind, and while my family isn't wealthy, there's always enough food on the table. Most importantly, Renata ran off to find her sister, Estella. I have Estella, the most beautiful and warm-hearted girl in the world, my sister. Even just hoeing the fields, how can she look so radiant? Renata ran over and hugged her sister tightly. Estella asked curiously, Did you just come back from Lady Langwade's place? She immediately replied, Yes. She raised me after my mother left this world. Even though she's small, she can go out and work to earn money, finding food whether it's in the mountains or the sea. She carried her sister on her back and raised her. I love her the most, my little sister. Estrella gave her a bright smile and said, We'll eat them after dinner. Renatis smiled too, her eyes filled with affection as she gazed at her. Estrella is my most important family. She's so good to Emil. The two sisters chatted all the way home. At Renatis' home, it was a peaceful night. She stood by the window, gazing at the starry sky. Tomorrow I'll be an adult too, which means I could do a lot of things. I can definitely lessen Estrella's burden. In a few minutes, I'll be 20 years old. The clock ticked relentlessly. The crucial moment arrived precisely at midnight, the clock chiming loudly. Renatis' whole being seemed to awaken. She squeezed her eyes shut, tried to endure the pain. From her slightly parted lips, a moan slowly escaped. With her extensive experience, she knew what would happen next. Snapping back to reality, Reanita cried out pitifully. Stop, please. She knew the handsome and dominant man before her would ravage her body, taking her through waves of pleasure. Leonardis's fear only seemed to excite Theodore more. Don't stop. Don't you look like you're enjoying it? Our little, which has such an alluring body, always trying to tempt me every night. My Estrella. Suddenly, her sister, Estrella, called out Leonardis's name with a panicked expression. She rushed to her side, asking, "Are you all right? What happened?" Reanita hadn't yet recovered from the terrifying dream. Estrella, her sister, continued to express her concern. Does your head still hurt? Are you all right? Should I call a doctor? Reanita could only sit in silence, her face buried in the ground, thinking, I remember this. I'm inside the novel I read before. Caro is the doll. It's an 18-plus story that starts with a crazy love affair. It tells everything that happened to the male lead, Grand Duke Caro. The Grand Duke Caro family possesses a lineage of madness, starting from when they're young. However, as they age, this madness gradually weakens. But it's this madness that will kill them before they reach adulthood. This can be avoided by absorbing the fluids within a witch, but this fluid only manifests in the shape of 2 radishes. The realization shocked Leonardis. She frantically began hitting them repeatedly with a hoe. Why are these radishes shaped so disgustingly? Get out, you evil demon. Absorption can happen in various ways. For example, you can find out for yourselves. This is totally suitable for a 19-plus story. Leonardis cried, blaming herself. Why did you read that kind of story? How were you raised? Even if I just turned 20, is it okay for such insensitive information to keep assaulting me? I know everything from A to Z just in this one crazy day. Seeing Leonardis's strange behavior, Estrella and Emile became extremely worried. Reanita, is everything all right? Her sister answered in a panic. I told her to rest, but she refused. Reanita collapsed on the ground. I'm so screwed. Estrella unexpectedly came up behind her, gently touching her forehead, checking her temperature. You don't have a fever, do you? Thank goodness you're not hot, but I still think you should rest. Estrella's concern helped Leonardis regain her composure. Right, I'm not the problem right now. The biggest problem is that the most beautiful and kindest sister in this world is the female lead of that crazy story. Her fluids are sucked dry by the male lead and has to endure his madness. In the end, something terrible happens to Estrella Cresia. Death visits her in the dungeon. Her life ends in the most tragic way. Just imagining the scene sent chills down Reanita's spine. No, inacceptable. I can't just sit back and watch her die tragically. She quickly called out to Estrella. I want some birthday presents. Estrella asked with a smile. I wonder why you suddenly became so serious. Do you want me to bake you a fluffy cake, and then we can go on a picnic like last time? However, Leonardis's expression was deadly serious as she said, Estrella, I want you out of this house by midnight tonight. She was determined to rewrite the story. Faced with her younger sister's bizarre request, Estella was incredulous. What? She asked, stunned. In Carlo's house, in a dimly lit room, Theodore collapsed onto the floor, aching and exhausted. He panted, gently touching his face. Theodore revealed sharp fangs. In a raspy voice, he said, In 1 week, I want you out of this house by midnight. She still refuses to grant my wish, which I consider a birthday present. No matter how Reynolds persuaded her, Estella was determined not to leave. No, running away at midnight? Even knowing what that implies, you still want me to do that? Reynolds wouldn't give up. Of course, he replied instantly. I'm an adult now. Estella was starting to feel exasperated. We've been discussing this for a week now. Aren't you tired, Lyanthis? For the past week, Lyanthis had been clinging to her older sister like a leech, making it impossible for Estella to work. Reyna, go do your chores. Lyanthis wasn't giving up that easily. She even resorted to hypnotism every night while Estella was asleep, whispering in her ear like a mantra, run away at midnight. Lyanthis even had a more forceful approach, shock therapy. She would hide in the wardrobe, and every time Estella passed by, she would immediately say, as if pre-programmed, run away at midnight. Having tried all methods to no avail, Lyanthis could only shout, since you won't listen to me, why not elope with Emile? He loves you so much. Estella was dumbfounded by her sister's attitude. My goodness, can you really say such a thing with a straight face? I don't feel that way about Emile. You know you'll be punished if you keep saying that, right? If you're so free, help me prepare dinner. Lyanthis puffed out her cheeks, thinking to herself, another lie. After my memories resurfaced, recalling the story in that book, I know her true feelings. She truly loves Emil. Of course, Emil wasn't particularly handsome, nor was he wealthy. Aside from being kind, he wasn't worthy of the most beautiful sister in the world at all. My sister, in that novel, in that darkness, her swollen eyes were always filled with longing for her younger sister. Although he was a bit mad, he was handsome and rich, even with a high enough status. Yet she still didn't accept him, love him. Just as Lyanthis was lost in thought, Estella's voice suddenly rang out. What would you do if I eloped with Emil? Lyanthis quickly replied, wait, I've already told you. I'll go to some noble's house and work as a maid. If I work there, I'll definitely be able to earn money to buy a house and food. Estella sighed and asked, without a letter of recommendation or a request, how can you enter a noble's mansion? Lyanthis immediately demonstrated her abilities. She lifted 3 large stones at once, saying, they said they wanted a strong maid. You know how strong I am. Who else is more suitable for this position than me? Estella panicked, telling her to quickly put the stones down. As soon as she finished speaking, the stones tumbled down, crushing Lyanthis beneath them. She closed her eyes and prayed silently. Can you understand my feelings? Just this once. Seeing her sister like this, Estella's heart ached. She looked directly into Lyanthis' eyes and urged, stop being childish, Reina. Lyanthis looked up at her sister with an innocent face. Do you really? Just as the atmosphere became sentimental, their father suddenly stumbled in, drunk. Expressions of fear appeared on both sisters' faces. Estella cried out, trembling, Father. Their father stared blankly ahead, then began to rant and rave. You brats! Your father comes home, and you don't even greet him. Estella quickly stood up to explain. No, it's not like that. I was busy preparing dinner. Their father asked in a harsh tone, Lyanthis, are you there? She hid behind Estella, not daring to make sound. Although I don't want to admit it, that man is our father, my sisters, and my father. He's always drunk, angry, and staggering around. I bet he lost again, Renata muttered, her voice barely a whisper. He took all the money my sister earned the other day. Their father spotted Renata then, his eyes burning with a furious glare. You, he roared, hurling the bottle in his hand towards Renata. You useless wench. Who do you think you're looking at with that haughty gaze? Is that disrespectful look for the one who ran away a few days ago? Astra threw herself in front of Renata. Father, please don't drag Rena into this. I beg you. She's done nothing wrong. Their father stood frozen, a whimper escaping his lips, his face contorted with a mixture of rage and regret. After a few tense seconds, he turned and stalked away. Damn it, I lost a bottle of liquor because of you. You have to pay me back for another one, he yelled over his shoulder. Renata sat motionless on the floor, the shock of the near miss still rippling through her. Seeing her sister hadn't moved, Astra rushed to her side, her heart pounding in her chest. Look at me, are you all right? Did any of the glass cut you? Renata looked up, her eyes filled with a chilling calmness. Are you planning to put up with him forever? I'm lucky it was just like this today, but who knows what he'll do next time? At these words, Astra sank to the floor beside her sister, the weight of their situation pressing down on her. After a long silence, Astra spoke, her voice firm with resolve. Let's run away together. Renata immediately shook her head. Our father can't earn money on his own. If we both run, he'll definitely come after us. Astra hesitated. Rena, before she could finish, Renata cut her off, her decision made. We'll separate for a while. If you're still worried, check next month to see if I'm still in this town. If I fail as a maid, I'll follow you wherever you go when you come back. Renata clasped Astra's hand tightly, a brave smile illuminating her face. I may look like this, but I'm actually quite strong. So, can you trust me just this once? Tears of sorrow streamed down Astra's cheeks. And so, the two sisters could only embrace, their quiet sobs mingling in the stillness of the room. That morning, Renata agreed and hurriedly packed her belongings. Emil seemed surprised by the sudden request, but perhaps because of what I had said a few days prior, he quickly grasped the situation and began to help look after her. He's better than I thought. Thank God, I thought at the time. Before leaving, Astra managed to squeeze in a few more words to Renata. Rena, you may have really grown up, but to me, you'll always be my crybaby sister. So, if you ever face any difficulties, please call me. No, call me right away. In the novel, Astra said she was willing to sacrifice herself to protect her younger sister. You've always comforted me, given your whole life to me, but I only wish for your happiness. If you can find joy instead of despair. Astra squeezed Renata's hand. I love you more than anything. You're willing to destroy yourself to protect it. The moment of parting arrived, and Astra, weeping openly, had to tear herself away from her beloved sister. Renata, forcing a smile, waved goodbye to her sister, but her heart felt like it had skipped a beat. She was gone. Suddenly, Renata doubled over, the pretense of strength gone. She had only done it to hide her own tears of grief. Under the gloomy twilight, she collapsed on the road like a lone, lost child. Don't cry, Renata told herself. It'll be okay, because I've gotten her to safety. There's still a lot to do. The next thing to do is lock Father up. Yes, that's what I have to do. In truth, Father doesn't hate her. He's always been angry at me because he always saw me clinging to her. The one he hates is me. And the reason is because I look like Mother. Renata stared at her reflection in a puddle. My mother died when I was a baby. Even my sister says she only has vague memories of Mother's face. I don't remember anything. It feels so unfair. But this has nothing to do with her anymore. Renata placed her belongings in front of the door, a precaution in case her father escaped, and breathed a sigh of relief. The mission to lock Father in the woodshed is successfully completed. From inside the room, their father banged on the door. What the hell? Why won't this door open? She stood outside, gazing at the room, speculating. With Father fast asleep, I doubt he'll wake anytime soon. He'll never be able to open it. The preparations are complete. Today marks the 1-year anniversary of my birthday. Someone will be knocking any minute now. If I open the door now, Lyanthis' hand hovered over the doorknob, hesitant. Just like in a story, a young man stood before the house about to say, "Indeed, there's a pink-haired girl here." The novel began with the appearance of someone from a prominent family. Lyanthis was flustered by his words. As he stared at her, she froze, mid-spray of hair glue. Lyanthis looked at her vibrant pink hair and thought, is this stuff really that magical? Pink-haired individuals were exceedingly rare in this world. However, I didn't think much of it until I recalled the details from the novel. I think the novel described it as sweet, captivating hair imbued with magic. The young man politely introduced himself. My apologies for introducing myself so late. I am Morty Eco. I work at the Duke's estate. Lyanthis nearly fainted from surprise, though in reality, she had known this all along. In the original plot, he would kidnap Lyanthis and use her as a hostage to force Estrella's obedience. Wordy, observing Lyanthis' reaction, found it strange. Wasn't she surprised that someone from the Duke's estate had come knocking? She seemed utterly unfazed. Lyanthis innocently asked, "What brings someone from the Duke's estate here?" Wordy replied with a smile, "I have some matters to discuss with you. May I come in?" As Wordy spoke, her father's voice boomed from within the room. "Estrella Renatis, you think you can escape from me? Brush off this monstrous hair of mine." During this outburst, Wordy asked curiously, "Who is that?" Lyanthis' head began to pound. So much to deal with. It was all such a mess. "I just want to go to sleep." She slammed the door shut and told Wordy, "It's my father. Don't mind him. The more he hears, the more curious he'll become." "Did you lock him up?" Lyanthis cradled her head in frustration. More misunderstandings. This is bad. Thanks to her quick thinking, Lyanthis concocted an excuse. "I'm ashamed to say this to someone I've just met, but my father suffers from a mental illness. He becomes delusional every time he drinks." Wordy's eyes widened in surprise. A mental illness? She thought. Was it the word mental that piqued his curiosity, or something else? Fortunately, Wordy dropped the subject. "Well, let's put that aside for now." This statement filled Lyanthis with inner joy. "Yes, it's not important. Now that the serious part is over, I'll get straight to the point. I want you to come with me to the Duke's estate." Lyanthis forced a smile, thinking, here it comes. He's taking me, not my sister. I'll pretend I don't know anything until we get there. Renatis' face displayed a range of emotions, from mild surprise to slight contemplation, and finally, a look of apprehension. Finally, she made up her mind. "All right, I'll go with you to the Duke's estate. Shall we go now?" Having barely uttered those brave words, Lyanthis timidly blurted out, No, wait a minute," she stammered. "Just a moment." Lyanthis squeezed her eyes shut, struggling to recall. In the novel, Estrella's first meeting with the male lead was in a small room. Yes, definitely a small room. But after what? Renatis opened her eyes. She saw that everything was different from her memories. No matter how she looked at it, this wasn't a cathedral. Wordy turned and stared at Lyanthis. Then he turned and walked away without hesitation. "I told you, your business is the same as mine." Renatis couldn't react to his abrupt shift in attitude. "He's ignoring me. But isn't this supposed to be a prison?" Renatis walked, her eyes scanning her surroundings with a searching gaze. Even knowing everything, I still feel deceived. I wonder how frightened Estrella must have been in the novel, knowing nothing. They're following close behind, so escape is impossible. I thought the cathedral would appear in the middle or end of the story. I wasn't expecting the path to it to be in a prison. At the end of this corridor will be that room. I'm so scared. Well, it's all right, I need to find. Just then, Audie suddenly flung open a door and shoved Renata inside. Without a word, she spun around angrily and berated him. How could you just so suddenly? He coldly replied, do your job here and be quiet in prison. The annoyance at being treated so poorly was clear on Renata's face. She slammed her hand against the door and cried out in exasperation. Seriously, how could you throw me away like trash? I need to mentally prepare myself, too. After shouting for a while and receiving no response, Renata chose to remain silent. If it weren't for my sister, I'd have no reason to meet the Duchess. Because I'm not her from the novel. She's the one who makes the male lead fall in love. I only have the same pink hair as her. Other than that, we have nothing in common. She's slim with clear purple eyes, kind, gentle, and considerate. While I'm strong, have blue eyes, and am a crybaby. Who would fall in love with a girl like me? It's impossible for anyone to love me, right? So, that hero definitely won't notice me. He won't even look at me. Therefore, I won't have to face that unfortunate ending. Yes, one's taste doesn't change easily. Because I've liked muscular men since I was 12, the kind who can split with like tearing paper. But all the boys my age in the village were weaker than me. Renata had once carried a pile of heavy sacks that no one else could lift. Why can't you do it? The boys her age were also afraid of her monstrous strength. Even adults struggled to do the same. Renata said sarcastically, isn't there anyone as strong as a beast? There was a time when I thought about this, but that doesn't mean. Renata's expression suddenly changed. Tears of fear flowed uncontrollably. I wanted something like that ferocious tiger. I didn't want this. That moment arrived. Theodore, like a wild bear, barged into Renata's room. The male protagonist of this novel, the heir to the ducal family, Theodore de Caro, was currently in a frenzy. Renata pressed herself against the wall in terror. Things were worse than she thought. From now on, I have to remember this. In the story, when Estella and Theodore meet for the first time, Theodore will obviously lunge straight at Estella. He's coming this way. This was definitely something that would happen to the female protagonist. Theodore madly rushed to embrace Renata. Fortunately, due to a bit of strength and agility, she managed to jump aside in time, dodging his attack. Why do I, someone from another world, have to be swallowed whole? I didn't expect him to pounce on me like that. That's because I thought he had different tastes in women. Thank you, Mom, for giving me such excellent reflexes. He bit my hand, but that's not important. Seeing his disgusting behavior, Renata could only scream internally. Oh my God, he's sucking on the blood-stained cloth. Suddenly, Theodore spoke in a captivating tone. Your scent. Renata froze for a few seconds. He's talking? Could he have returned to normal? I don't know why, but now. She forced a smile and replied, Lord Theodore, if you've calmed down, let's sit down and talk like adults. As soon as she finished speaking, he relentlessly chased after her. She could only flee for her life, crying. Is he still that ferocious beast? I knew it. Nothing's changed. You're good at making people fall. While running away, Renata used her brain to calculate. I can't keep running in this small room with no exit. Calm down, Renata. You made very careful plans for your first meeting with a male lead, right? I should do what Brother Emmanuel said back then. Renata, do you know something? It is said that when facing a beast, you shouldn't turn your back. Renata asked in surprise. Then how can I escape? Emmanuel shared his experience with her. Face it, slowly back away, and keep your distance. The most important thing is... These words echoed in Renata's mind. She slowly backed away. At this moment, I must be brave. She looked directly into his eyes, as if to say, I'm not afraid of someone like you. Despite her fear, she forced herself to stare at Theodore. Good, it's working. Brother Emmanuel seems to be the best. Even a madman wouldn't be ashamed to see himself gradually calming down. Lyanthis cautiously took one step back at a time. Even if you enter a tiger's den, as long as you don't provoke it, you can still survive. How can I keep this up until someone comes tomorrow? Unfortunately, just as she thought everything had settled down, Lyanthis suddenly slipped and fell backward. At the same time, Theodore's hand reached out, making contact with Lyanthis, and he pushed her against the wall. Leonardis panicked, unsure of how to deal with this situation. This is a scam. Emil. Drops of blood fell to the floor. Leonardis could only resist with all her might, but it was useless. Deep down, she could only scream silently. I'm so scared. Will he eat my hand first before I die? I should at least punch him. Theodore continued to bite Leonardis's hand, recklessly. Meanwhile, she could only whisper silently in her heart, Sister, I'm sorry. Your rebellious younger sister is doing this kind of thing. Leonardis tried to push him away with her other hand. However, to her surprise, the biting gradually weakened. Theodore's expression was no longer as ferocious as before. Leonardis was also captivated by his beauty. Her face suddenly turned pale, and goosebumps rose all over her body. Leonardis sadly asked herself, Why is Theodore the male lead affected by the madness outbreak? He attacked the female lead as soon as he saw her. He was described as a beast, only concerned with satisfying himself, acting on instinct. Of course, that was in a different situation. There were some scratches around his mouth, and it seemed his face had hit the wall. His fingernails were broken and full of wounds. Could it be that he endured the pain alone? These things made Leonardis see herself as a child. She had been locked in a dark room, and even when she screamed and cried, no one paid attention. Daddy, I was wrong. Please let me out. It's dark and scary here. It's all my fault, sister. Leonardis bit her lip, trying to suppress her emotions. Theodore is standing right in front of me. Looking closely, he is completely different from the Theodore in the novel. In this dark place, he is with me, just like what happened to me. Precisely because of this empathy, Leonardis comforted Theodore. It's okay. I can see in his eyes that he's like a child who has lost his mother. You're okay now. Everything's all right. Leonardis gently embraced him. If it weren't for that, I don't know why I would do this. Perhaps I was captivated by Theodore's eyes. After being immersed in her thoughts for a long time, Leonardis suddenly woke up. Seeing that he was completely unresponsive, she gently called into his ear, Lord Theodore? Ah, he's asleep. He calmed down after drinking my blood. But why did the novel mention that Theodore sucked Estrella's blood until she completely lost consciousness? Was that all it took for him to return to normal? He looks fine now. Leonardis closed her eyes, trying to recall the plot. There are too many details that are different from the book, including Theodore's situation. This is strange. What's going on? Just as she was lost in thought, a strange object suddenly appeared beside her. It suddenly let out a cry, startling Leonardis, who was seeing a strange creature for the first time. It was talking to Person. It looked at her with sharp eyes. Surely someone chose the wrong type. In Caro's doll, there are no monsters or magic, only the Caro family, who have been controlled by madness for generations. When the madness appears, their eyes take on a characteristic red color. But this is... Leonardis looked at the round, shiny sphere lying before her, hesitantly guessing what it was. A few seconds later, she pointed at it and screamed in terror. No matter how you look at it, it's a giant slime. The slime also flew into a rage and shouted back, How dare you? How dare you call me, the supreme demon, by the name of the most pathetic monster, a slime? Do you want to die? Reynard was terrified by the monster's ferocity. Oh my, this is curious. I don't recall being a slime in my past life. Seeing Reynard just gaping at her, speechless, the monster grew irritated. Don't you dare ignore me. Say something. Reynard, summoning her courage, asked, So, if you're not a slime, then what are you? The monster's demeanor instantly shifted, and she introduced herself cheerfully. This appearance's name is Sujin. Reynard gave a wry smile and asked, Well, Mr. Sujin, what are you? The answer she received was unexpectedly disappointing. I'm Sujin, of course. I apologize for asking such a confusing question after being so rude, Reynard replied. My race is human, and my name is Renatis Glacia. So, Sujin, what is your race? Sujin looked away, seemingly in thought. For a long moment, silence filled the room. Seeing that Sujin couldn't give an answer, Renatis ventured, Are you a slime? Hearing this, Sujin hopped up and down, denying it vehemently. I'm not a slime. I'm Sujin. No, this appearance doesn't matter. This body represents the great super demon, she declared, scrambling up to sit on Renatis' head. Renatis still attempted to ask gently, So, what race does your great super demon belong to? Sujin stammered, Renatis persisted, still convinced she was a slime. Sujin cried out in frustration, I am not a slime. You really have no emotional intelligence. Think what you want, you stupid human. Seeing Sujin turn to leave, Renatis asked curiously, "Where are you going?" Sujin snapped, "Don't talk to me like we're friends." "Wait," Renatis called out worriedly. Just as she was about to get up and chase after her, she suddenly remembered Theodore, still lying in her lap. So she could only call out futilely, "Sujin." Sujin was gone. Renatis became incredibly despondent. "Even if I try to change things as they were, nothing is different, is it?" In the drawing room, Theodore's entire body trembled uncontrollably. He had to grip a nearby table tightly to stand. Exhausted gasps continuously escaped him. "Save me, father," Theodore rasped weakly. Seeing his son in this state, Count Carlo's face remained cold and impassive. He reminded him sternly, "Do not lose consciousness. I trust you still vividly remember how your brother departed. If you don't want to end up like him, under no circumstances are you to kill the witch." Theodore was shocked to hear his father make such a demand. "Before I completely lost consciousness, those are the last words I heard from my father." While it didn't resemble warm advice from a father to a son, it was the most realistic advice. A cold voice, a warning, and a command. Theodore knew that his father, Count Carlo, still hadn't fully accepted him. He had never given him any warm words, but he thought this time would be different. He didn't know how to deal with the pain stemming from his own rage, unable to even control his hands to avoid the sharp claws. The man who shared his name and blood had also experienced this agonizing torment. Theodore had once imagined his father reaching out to comfort him. "Don't worry, it will be over soon." That was all Theodore wished to see from him. Many times, Theodore had contemplated extreme measures, thinking perhaps it would be better to leave, rather than having to hear those words from him. Suddenly, a sweet voice echoed in Theodore's subconscious. "It's okay." The bewildered young man froze for a few seconds. It was the first time he had heard this voice, but somehow it felt so safe. Theodore woke up in a daze after a long slumber. As soon as he opened his eyes, the young man was utterly confused. This place, seeing Theodore sit up, Morty hurriedly rushed to his side and asked, "Mr. Theodore, are you awake?" The young man groaned inwardly, thinking, "The pain is gone too when I came back. My teeth and hands returned to normal." Seeing Theodore's unusual behavior, Wirt worriedly asked, "Are you still in pain?" Theodore remained seated, dumbfounded, like a lost soul. "How could it suddenly?" He asked, "Where's the witch?" Morty quickly replied, "Yes, I locked her downstairs for safety's sake." Hearing this, Theodore immediately ran out without another word. "I lost my mind, even my consciousness. I can't lose her. I need to absorb the liquid in that body. No, I need her. What if she's hurt?" Theodore dashed toward the cell. The moment he stepped into the cell, the sight of Reynard's gazing at the starry sky through the window met Theodore's eyes. She stood quietly. Then Reynard's hesitantly said, "I've been waiting for you. Does that matter no longer? This isn't allowed." "How could you?" Theodore thought. As expected, she's hurt somewhere. Reynards frankly complained, "I made it very clear to them that I expected a nice room and delicious food prepared upon my arrival. But they actually made me sleep on a stone floor, surviving on foul-smelling air. The air even stinks. How could this be? I should at least have 2 meals a day." Reynards grumbled, expressing her dissatisfaction. Theodore's eyes widened. Did I hurt her head? He thought. Reynards shrieked in indignation. She kept moving closer to the person in front of her. "How could you?" "The right to survive. There should at least be something to fill my stomach." They took Theodore away early in the morning, leaving me alone in this cold dungeon. "What are you going to do if I starve to death here and the mission isn't completed?" Reynards was about to scold him to vent her anger, but Theodore replied, "It seems you're quite indignant." The warm voice and cold exterior, just like Theodore, made Reynards not want to scold him anymore. She looked up in surprise, only to be startled, as he was already there at some point, even hearing all her complaints just now. "I thought a servant would come and drag me away. Is he going to come personally? Why?" Reynards immediately kept her distance, wondering if Theodore was feeling better. She noticed his eyes had returned to normal, and he could speak purposefully again. Theodore said, "Why did you suddenly stop? I suppose this is your first time seeing a monster like that." Reynards recalled the horrific events of last night. Theodore had the eyes of a lost child, like flickering lights, making anyone who looked at them fear they too would go mad. That flickering little light makes me unconsciously want to breathe some life into it. I recognize those eyes. Those are the eyes of a rebellious teenager. If I'm not careful, he might become a case of adolescence causing societal disaster. Reynard kept imagining Theodore throwing tantrums and doing something foolish. However, she still hadn't answered Theodore's previous question, which made him impatient. Is the question so dreadful that you can't answer? Without Reynard's, there was no one to stop Theodore from going out of control, and everything would become extremely bad. So she put on a cute kitty look to appease him, because he looked too much like a cute bunny. Bunny. Theodore paused for a few seconds. Reynard's, knowing she had said the wrong thing in front of someone as indifferent as Theodore, felt her limbs go weak with fear. In romance novels, the male lead is usually a carnivore, so this might not be right. Reynard shyly averted her gaze. No, I didn't mean Theodore is a bunny, because bunnies also have red eyes, but they're not scary. So, I mean red eyes aren't bad, just like bunnies are still cute. So, Theodore replied. At this point, Reynard panicked even more, not knowing what to say next, blurting out that he was cute, like a bunny. But Theodore pressed her. Do you find me cute? Doesn't he like being called cute? To be honest, Theodore is more handsome than cute. Now he's healthier than before, and I can feel him like the male lead in a romance novel, like a male lead living in a broken family. When he looks directly at me, I can see a wild beauty in his eyes. Even though his voice was rough, it somehow still held a hint of gentleness, making him even more attractive. Of course, I also like the look of a growling wolf, though I might prefer a loyal, mid-sized dog that always wags its tail, rather than a grumpy wolf. Lyanthis thought about her ideal type and affirmed that Theodore didn't quite fit her taste. So, fortunately, they both stuck to their own opinions. Seeing Lyanthis smiling to herself, Theodore asked again, "What did you do to me?" Wouldn't the more accurate question be, "What did Theodore do to me?" she retorted, showing him the wounds on her arm. Just this? Isn't this enough? Did he not remember anything from his berserk state? Or was he half-conscious? Lyanthis suddenly realized something. But when he asked me what I did to him, does that mean he wants to know how I survived without any injuries? If so, it would be bad if Theodore became suspicious and no longer trusted me. He might find another pink-haired witch, a beautiful pink-haired witch named Esther. I did my best to help you escape. Sister, you must live well and stay away from this place. Lyanthis told herself to try and remember what the female lead did after having her blood sucked by the male lead in the novel. That's right, she definitely became weak. Lyanthis immediately started feigning illness. Suddenly, I feel so dizzy. It must be because you sucked too much of my blood last night. Now I'm anemic. She did a little jig, then twirled. Anemia. That's it. She was still thinking about when she should faint. She had never fainted before. How could she act it out? I don't know, just lie down. Lyanthis promptly collapsed onto the floor. Then she pretended to be motionless to attract Theodore's attention. Whether this was successful or not was unknown, but she did injure herself with her foolish fall. Because of her injured ankle, she started crying internally. Even so, Lyanthis remained motionless so as not to be exposed. Just endure it. Maybe this will be more realistic. Since Theodore didn't say anything, he must have believed her, right? Just as Lyanthis planned, Theodore called someone to take her back to her room. Amazing. Do I really have a talent for acting? Perhaps my biggest loss is having to pretend to lie here. They might draw my blood while I'm dozing. Lyanthis slightly opened her eyes and saw that not only Theodore had appeared, but others had also shown up. Theodore came to her side and whispered in her ear, "If you still have any self-respect, wake up and stand up." There was nothing more embarrassing than this. Lyanthis had no choice but to get up on her own, saying she had slept well. "Cheer up, let's walk with my healthy legs." Then she hurriedly left the place. Theodore watched her retreating figure and thought, to be able to speak so loudly and walk so powerfully. After I went berserk all night, that's impossible. But she doesn't seem to be forcing herself. Is this an act? Theodore slowly stood up. Recalling the moment Lyanthis had blankly sat up just now, Theodore was amused by her expression. Then he left the cell. I'm glad I didn't hurt her. Of course, maybe she doesn't feel that way. Lyanthis returned to her room. After escaping that dark dungeon, she immediately jumped onto her beloved bed. It was Audi who had brought her here. Since there was no maid's room, Lyanthis was allowed to use this room temporarily. While she was here, actually, Count Carlo, this room is bigger than my house. At first, he didn't want to give her this room, but in the end, he had to accept. Even the furniture, like the bed, is high quality, and my arm has already been treated in bed. Lyanthis was still dreaming of the taste of the bread she had just eaten, but what she liked most was the dress prepared especially for her. As soon as Lyanthis put it on, she rushed to the mirror to admire herself. Audi had given her the role of a maid in the Count's household. In front of everyone, Her job was to prepare tea for Mr. Theodore. Audi said Renita's main job was still to appease Theodore's madness. But even if she didn't like it, he would accept it because it was Theodore's inspiration, and she had to keep it a secret. Renita accepted the dress, admiring it all the while. Aud added that the original dress was beautiful, and that it was good she liked this one. I can clearly see his awkward expression, and that's why people want him to work here. A thought suddenly struck Renita. But I do like this one. There's a ribbon here, and the puff sleeves are cute, and this dress is made of soft fabric. How can you say it's not pretty? Until now, she had only received 2 dresses. One was a long time ago, a small dress her mother had sewn for her by hand. The other was a birthday present from her sister, made with new fabric. The ones I'm wearing now are those clothes, stained with blood and dirt and tattered. That's right, I wore these because I wanted to make a good impression on Theodore, because they're the only decent things I own. If I'd known this would happen, I would have worn something else. If my sister saw this, she would definitely have a lot to say. Actually, the person who should be in this room was Renita's sister. After being entangled with the male lead all night, that sister would be lying in bed, unable to open her eyes, and perhaps the surrounding scene would be doctors clucking their tongues. Renita's heart ached. Brother Amira took good care of you, right? I'm glad you were able to escape all of that. She held the new dress to her chest, constantly thinking of her sister. Sujian, hearing Renita sniffling, thought she was crying, which slightly revealed the problems Renita had been hiding. Wait a minute, something's not right. Renita began to piece together the whole story, including the sudden appearance of the monster. Sujian admitted to using it, which completely surprised her. So the monster and all this madness, this could be a big turning point. Renita asked if it could take her to see her sister, even just for a moment. Sujian immediately refused. Is it because of what I said about you yesterday? I'm sorry, I just wanted to make sure my sister got away safely. Or is there something wrong with the magic that could do that? When there was no response, Sujian remained silent. Truthfully, it wasn't the main character, so it didn't have the ability to do what Renita asked. This fact made the atmosphere awkward, even dead silent. Renita sat dejectedly beside the dress. Then how did you get in here? Well, I slipped in through that gap under the door. You know, I'm a slime. Yet you insist you're the supreme demon. Sujian stammered. What? I mean, it's demon Sujian. It said it followed a sweet smell and found its way to Lyanthis' room. A sweet smell, but there's nothing here that smells like that. Sujian immediately denied this. I've been tracking that smell all day yesterday and today, and even when I found you, I felt like it was emanating from you. Then it hopped onto Renita. I don't smell that sweet. Hey, don't wiggle around like that. It's a strange smell. Come to think of it, Theodore had said something similar yesterday. Could it be that I have a scent that something non-human can recognize? I wasn't aware of smells in the novel. I only remember the not-so-pure visuals in the novel. Suddenly, Sujian said, "That's the sweet smell. I'm sure you smell sweet." It continued to make cute gestures, making Renita fall for it in return. However, Sujian wanted to make her its personal servant. As soon as it finished speaking, Renita punched it against the wall. The bias towards cuteness instantly disappeared. Sujian immediately chased after her. What are you doing? It's an honor to be Sujian's servant. Yeah, but because of that noble position, I feel short of breath. But I want to smell that smell. Sujian sincerely wanted Renatis to be its servant. It expressed its desire to smell the sweetness from her forever. The thought made her shudder. How can anyone think like that? This thing wasn't human, it was slime, and yet Sujian was even considering adopting Renita. It left her speechless. What a persistent creature. What do you want? Renita said she would be friends with Sujian. We'll be friends, so you can come over anytime. How about it, Sujian? As expected, the heroine's aura swayed the slime. A friend? It perked up, intrigued. Human, you dare to do this? Wanting to be friends with Mr. Sujian here? But since you're so sincere, I'll accept this wish. Great, thank you. Seeing the change, Ortei came to Theodore's room. He then handed Theodore Miss Renita's letter. A letter? Yes, sir. Before I left, she quickly wrote a message and handed it to me. The two of them opened the letter, wondering what was going on inside. Did she write this letter to Ortei in a hurry? Since it was a hastily written letter, the contents were as follows. Hello, Master Theodore. I hope this letter reaches you safely. I wanted to ask you something. When did you start going crazy? Do you have any signs that you know you're about to lose control, like eye pain or toothaches? Do you often have possessive feelings? I'll be ready to hear your answer, so be sure to reply. Reading up to this point, both Orte and Theodore were stunned. Orte immediately rebuked. How audacious. How dare she say that Master Theodore is crazy? Only Theodore looked thoughtful. Did she hit her head again? And what are these strange characters? Back at Ryanita's place, Sajin and she were in the middle of a loud quarrel. It pouted, calling her ugly. Stop making fun of me, you slime. The arm bitten by Theodore now began to throb. Maybe the painkillers wore off, or maybe I got too comfortable. It bled quite a bit when it was bitten. Things are difficult now. Sajin asked again, does it hurt that much? Looking at its expression, Ryanita knew it was worried about her. Even if it was just playful banter, Ryanita felt a little warmth in her heart. I'm fine. It doesn't really hurt that much. There was this one time my arm broke because I tried to catch a chair my father threw at me. That hurt way more than this, but I was still fine. So this little injury is nothing. Suddenly, the stubborn slime poked the wound, causing Ryanita to nearly jump out of her skin in pain. She grabbed Sajin's head, yelling, "What is this thing trying to do?" "No, I thought you were lying. You said you were fine." Ryanita tormented it with all her might, in retaliation for the pain she had just endured. Okay, I admit, just because I've been hurt a lot before doesn't mean this wound doesn't hurt. But if Theodore loses control again, I'll have to endure this pain again. I can't keep putting up with this. I need to find a solution soon. Ryanita came up with the idea of drawing blood in advance and storing it for emergencies. But this world didn't have that kind of technology. There were even monsters. So where in this fantasy world would she find medical technology? Another method, Ryanita thought, was that since the protagonist's body had been severed and drained of fluids, she felt more relieved than pained, but she loathed herself even more. Is there any other way to drain fluids? Caro's dull novel? No way. How could I do something like that? It's too embarrassing. I have a future husband, too. I need to find another way, an easier way to drain one of those fluids. Racking her brain for solutions, Ryanita called Sajin back. She asked it what it would do to someone who always tried to make it cry. Kill them all. Sajin replied. What about just making them sweat? Kill them twice, of course. So that's how it was. But even I would be uncomfortable if someone made me sweat. Sajin, thinking Ryanita was going to sell it for salt, jumped up and down in fright. This guy, daring to ignore me. Sajin had just puffed out her cheeks and rolled away, leaving Ryanita in a whirlwind of thoughts. Eugene had said that if they made the creature cry, it would kill them. So she supposed it would be all right, just upset. Upset. Just the thought of her sister brought a wave of sadness over Ryanita, and tears welled in her eyes. Suddenly, the door swung open, pushed by someone from the outside. It was Theodore. He saw the tears brimming in Ryanita's eyes. Theodore? What is he doing here? The question hung unanswered in the air. The door hadn't been locked, so Theodore stepped inside. The first suspect that came to mind was Sajin. However, there was something different in Theodore's gaze. Earlier, Morty had said things didn't look good. The house was far from the village, old and dilapidated. It seemed to lack even basic furnishings. I investigated her family, a drunken father and a sister. Yes, a sister. But when I arrived, the person locked up seemed to be her father. He was alone in the room. They said they didn't know where the sister had gone. I even asked all the villagers. What else? She also said the clothes she was wearing were very precious. Back in the present, Ryanita tried to avoid Theodore's gaze, managing only a stammered greeting. Theodore noticed the precious dress Orty had mentioned. He seemed upset, as he was the one who had torn it. Why are you crying? He asked. Ryanita could only force a weak smile, unsure how to explain the situation in a way he would understand. It's because I suddenly felt homesick, she offered. Not because I miss my father. And I couldn't possibly be crying just because I miss my sister, right? Theodore seemed to assume the two sisters were close. If her homesickness stemmed from the precious dress, he parted his lips as if to speak. Just then, Theodore stepped closer, offering gentle comfort. Don't cry. The gesture left Ryanita dumbfounded. Not now. Is he wondering why I haven't wiped my tears? If not, why should I care what he thinks? This must be what they call the protagonist's intuition. What should she do? Should she kneel and beg for forgiveness? No, she hadn't even explained herself yet. Well, I'll just pretend I don't know anything. Let's change the subject. But why did you come to my room? Oh, I just remembered I sent you a letter earlier through Wordy. Did you receive it? Theodore replied coldly. I did. But there are a few things I don't understand, so I need to ask you. The current situation was incredibly awkward for Ryanita. Had she written something inappropriate? It turned out he was thinking about the laughing emoticon Ryanita had used. The realization struck her dumb. This symbol means laughter, right? Like this. In that moment, Renatis understood the meaning of speechless for the first time. Should I just tell him I was trying to produce tears for him to drink? Suddenly, Theodore handed her a bag of money. This should be enough to buy at least one outfit. Though Renatis still didn't understand the situation, she remained silent. I haven't paid you yet, he continued. Consider this an apology for your current clothes. I didn't know that dress was so precious, but I heard it was important to you. It was precious. When Renatis opened the bag, she was utterly shocked. It's not worth 2 million Luna. She seemed to be saying a lot with her silence. Renatis corrected him. This is enough for more than one dress. Even better ones than what I was wearing. Even after buying one, there's still a lot left. I could probably buy 20 or more. This is my salary for the next 2 months. Enough for my family's expenses for several months. Can I really take this? Is this a test? Despite needing the money, Renatis' conscience wouldn't allow it. But I don't deserve this much. However, Theodore denied it. Who deserves it more than you? I've already lost. This is the romantic male leads Halo. At this point, Renatis was at a loss with his insistence. If you insist, then I gratefully accept. I'll save it to live with my sister later. Meanwhile, Theodore still seemed worried. Had she stopped crying? Renatis was overjoyed. Thank you so much, Theodore. Theodore unconsciously smiled at her adorable appearance. To be honest, she said, I look like a rabbit, so I'm cute. After Theodore gave me 2 million Luna, I started diligently studying my super special job for 2 hours every day. The time outside of studying is called enjoyment time, a rosy life. After 2 hours of diligent studying, my job is to eat, drink, and have fun. It's a dream job, easy as a marshmallow. I wish I could stay here longer, but I've been here for 10 months already. I think the liquid inside me is gradually losing its effectiveness because it's been a while. To confirm this, Renatis subtly called for Sujin. It coldly demanded silence. Rena's expression was full of excitement. I haven't even said anything yet, and your worry for that guy is obvious, right? I just happened to pass by his room, and he's already asleep. You were curious about what he was doing, right? Well, I was, but it doesn't matter anymore. Don't call Theodore that guy in front of him. Why? Is he a girl? Renatis immediately denied it. You shouldn't call someone that guy. Use he instead if you don't want to be punished. Sujin excitedly said. Then I'll become a he slime. This statement left Renatis dumbfounded. At that moment, she realized something. Sujin was a male slime. No wonder Renatis was so shocked. The next morning, outside the mansion, another maid said with a frightened expression, Excuse me, Mississippi. Since Renatis was sleeping soundly, she had to call out, Excuse me, please wake up. Renatis startled awake. Who are you? The girl introduced herself. I'm a maid named Lyle. Count Caro has returned from his colonial tour. All the servants must greet him, so I came to wake you. Count Caro was currently the master of this mansion and Theodore's father. He was a notorious figure of this era, not only for wielding power comparable to the emperor, but also for his bloodthirst and cruelty. There was once a family who defied him. They were all exiled to their deaths, the men sold into slavery, and the women sent to brothels. Even on the battlefield, in the fight against the Diora kingdom, blood and tears flowed endlessly. He executed all 38 members of the Diora Ora royal family and hung their heads on the city gates. Thus, there was no one who hadn't heard of his notoriety. Now he was her master. But why was that terrifying man looking at her with such deadly eyes? His expression was filled with bloodlust. This is a witch. Rena's anxiety intensified. Had she done something wrong? Why was he looking at her with such terrifying eyes, as if he wanted to kill her? She admitted she had overslept this morning. Bilal had come to wake her, but she was the one who was asked to be here before the Count arrived. The Count remained silent. At that moment, he bluntly asked, Is this person a witch? His words stunned Rena. After speaking, he turned and left. At that point, Lal whispered to her, Don't look up. You woke up late, and you didn't even lower your head. Mr. Audi will punish you. I'm sorry, but that was really shocking. Just a few words, a low voice, treating people like dirt. Those eyes looked at her as if she were their property. She didn't want to see him again. After a while, Rita said, Just watch me today. But from now on, you have to take responsibility for your own mistakes. Learn to make tea every day. She could finally bring her first cup of tea to Theodore. The tea is here, Mr. Theodore. However, Theodore coldly demanded, Go away. I don't want tea. Rena thought, but why do I feel so bad? Rita whispered to Rena, it seems Mr. Theodore is in a bad mood today, so let's come back tomorrow. Yes, I understand. The two then left. Rena wondered, I wonder what's wrong with Mr. Theodore? If it's a relapse, it'll be a big problem. Rita told her, well, since you're here, I'll tell you. This is because the Count has returned. Sir Theodore and Count Carlo don't get along. So whenever the Count returns, Sir Theodore feels uncomfortable. It might sound strange to hear that family members don't have a good relationship, but it's true. My relationship with my father isn't very good. The atmosphere suddenly became unusually quiet. Rena felt a little panicked, but thankfully, she still had her younger sister. She's very kind. Doesn't Sir Theodore have any other family? Rita's exhausted look startled Rena. Why did her expression suddenly change like that? Then she revealed the reason. Theodore is an only child. It seems that in the past, he experienced something terrible. As a child, Theodore was cruelly rejected by his mother. Disappear from my sight. I never gave birth to you. You monster, just die. It's like an unhealed wound in Theodore's heart. Even the Duchess doesn't like him. In the novel, the Duchess is only briefly mentioned, but their relationship isn't. It seems it's because their relationship is poor. This wasn't mentioned, but she didn't forget to remind her. But remember not to mention their story in front of Sir Theodore. Yes, both of them are harsh. After a while, Rena, with nothing to do, leisurely walked to the garden, where she overheard a strange sound and went to investigate curiously. Before her now, a radiant young man was training. Rena's mind went blank, then she explained, why is he here? Rena peeked from behind the bushes and saw a young man practicing swordsmanship. She was very surprised, wondering why that person would be here. She guessed, this must be the older brother who glared at me so hard my eyeballs almost popped out and then threw me back in jail with Orte. He's the knight who carried Theodore so effortlessly. She wondered, why is he training in such a secluded place? I don't know the reason. Why has this man been hostile towards me since our first meeting? Facing him won't end well. Rena wished he would turn around and look at her. When she clearly saw his handsome face and bulging muscles, her jaw dropped. She thought, look at his muscles, they could drive you mad. There's nothing like this in my village. But it's a shame, if only he were 5 centimeters taller. Rena recalled, when I was in jail, my vision was blurry and it was dark, so I couldn't see his face clearly. His face is handsome, but not as handsome as the male lead, Theodore. That red hair and emerald green eyes are also striking. However, when Rena thought of red eyes and blue hair, she suddenly became so flustered that she couldn't blink. She took a few steps back, thinking worriedly, no way. It turned out Estrada had finished his training. Seeing her standing behind the bushes, he walked over and asked, what is a little witch doing wandering around here? Rena, drenched in a cold sweat, was frightened out of her wits. She stammered, staring at him blankly. He was also surprised and asked, how do you know my name? It turns out this is the prominent figure with red hair and blue eyes. He's not just a bodyguard protecting Theodore. He fell in love with Esther at first sight and tried to help her escape, but failed. He has a tragic ending. Rena kept smiling, thinking, seeing this, and Strud repeated his question. I asked how you know my name. Hearing this, Rena was startled and stammered. Because you're Theodore's knight, Sir Orte told me. Deep down, she panicked, trembling all over, thinking this is a lie, but I still can't believe this is in Stride. He's still looking at me with that hateful look. I like this character because he tries to help Esther. However, even in the novel, in Stride doesn't believe a witch's potion can alleviate Theodore's symptoms, even though Esther's potion alleviated Theodore's symptoms to some extent. But this, on the contrary, increased Theodore's possessiveness and madness towards her. Seeing Theodore becoming more and more out of control, Anstride lost faith in the witch's potion. Even Estella, whom he fell in love with at first sight, didn't trust him, so why would he doubt me even more? He was trying to save Estella, so I should understand. Renatis churned these thoughts over and over, saying nothing, only growing more irritated. The more Renatis dwelled on this story, the more frustrated she became. But how could he know how much I suffered in prison? The more I thought about it, the angrier I got. You helped my sister because you love her, something I wouldn't have dreamed of. Seeing Renatis's gloomy and pensive expression, Astrid asked again, what's this little witch sneaking around doing? Renatis retorted, I'm not sneaking around. I just had some free time and was about to take a nap. But Astrid cut her off sharply, saying, stop it. I know everything. You don't have to say anything. I'm sorry. I'm not interested in little brats like you. Of course, I know it's normal to have a crush on someone as handsome and charming as me, but unfortunately, the more he spoke, the wider Renatis' mouth opened, leaving her speechless in astonishment. What the hell? That's not at all. She tried to suppress her frustration. I know you like Estella, not me, but I have my pride too. But the frustration was too great, and she had to vent. Renatis' anger flared. Let's be clear, listen here, mister. I like my men at least 1.9 meters tall. But Astrid countered. What about over 1.9 meters? Renatis jumped in, saying, and you need to add at least another 20 kilograms of muscle to even come close to my taste. But Astrid retorted, what about over 100 kilograms? Now serious, Renatis continued. Those are just the minimum requirements for my taste. Hearing this, Astrid's expression suddenly changed. He became anxious and tense, shocked to the point of tears. Are you saying I'm not perfect enough? With the confident look of a victor, Renatis said haughtily and indifferently, then I'll be going. She then turned to leave, but Astrid suddenly stopped her. He called out, wait. Renatis slowly turned her head. Suddenly, she was reminded of her father, a scolding man who often said, Renatis, you bastard. Her eyes now became vacant and lifeless. Like a long-ingrained habit, she yelled, I'm sorry. Then she collapsed on the ground, holding her head. Astrid, utterly astonished, recoiled his hand. Renatis was now terrified. Sweat dripped from her. After a while, she regained her composure and said breathlessly, I'm sorry. I was a little startled. She actually reacted this way because it reminded her of her father grabbing her hair and hitting her. Panicked, she asked, did you call me? Astrid told her, you had a leaf stuck in your hair. Astrid's expression suddenly became awkward and embarrassed. Renatis didn't quite understand what had just happened. The two stared at each other. Suddenly, Astrid put his hand on her shoulder and said, stay here for a moment. I'm not good at comforting people. Renatis was confused, unsure of what he was trying to do. He then turned and walked away quickly. Taking a deep breath, Astrid asked directly, I wanted to ask you, is there any other way to cure Sir Theodore? Astrid was caught in a dilemma, lost in thought. When I first heard about the Earl's family and the witches having the blood of madness flowing through them, I thought it was fabricated. But when I saw Sir Theodore's transformation with my own eyes, he became more powerful, and I realized with shock. In that state, can you really save Sir Theodore? Is it true? Snapping back to reality, Renatis realized she had forgotten something. She explained, sorry, excuse me, but suddenly she froze, unsure of what to say next. The atmosphere became incredibly awkward. Astrid asked, what's wrong? Renatis, shyly, replied, come to think of it, you're also Sir Theodore's knight, so whether we like it or not, we might see each other more often in the future. And you've been calling me, which... She laughed aloud. I'm Renee Adonis Gracia. I'm Astrid Glorious. The two maids still couldn't believe it. Could this little girl truly save Master Theodore? The scene shifted to Renata, holding a teapot and teacup. Panic seized her. What should she do? Was there no other way? She wanted to cry a river. Had it really come down to spitting into his teacup? After countless times preparing tea for Master Theodore under Aunt Rita's watchful eye, she was finally allowed to serve him herself. Today was her first time, a chance to slip Theodore her saliva unnoticed. Her hands trembled as she held the tea tray, nerves tightening her chest. I can do this, she encouraged herself. Come on. Even at his door, anxiety gnawed at her. She paced back and forth, too afraid to enter. Saliva is better than tears, right? She muttered to herself. Besides, in the novel, Theodore and Esthera kissed, exchanging plenty of saliva, but I still feel so guilty. She slumped to the floor, distressed and unsure what to do. Suddenly, a thought struck her. No, it's better to prevent Theodore from becoming a monster in the first place, isn't it? Sometimes ignorance is bliss. That's right, I'm not just doing this for myself. However, as she opened the teacup, poised to deliver the crucial spittle, a familiar figure appeared as if from thin air. Theodore stood beside her, arms crossed, his voice sharp. What are you doing? Caught red-handed, Renata trembled, her face draining of color. Swallowing hard, she feigned innocence. Oh my, is it tea time already? Theodore was puzzled. Why are you asking me? He watched as Renata carried the tea into his room. She moved with exaggerated care. Theodore was calmly engrossed in a book. She stole a few glances, confirming his condition. Purple eyes, neat fingernails. Check. He remained calm, showing no signs of monstrous transformation. Although I couldn't get him to drink the liquid, there might be another chance in the future. It's a good thing he didn't ask more about what almost happened at the door. She thought, if he's that focused on reading, he'll be all right for a while longer, right? No. The book he's reading is called Faded Verses. Seems like a poetry collection. Is it really that good? I don't really enjoy reading poems. Renata continued, holding the teapot, lost in thought. But poems are usually short, and I haven't seen Theodore turn a page. It's been a while. Renata had stared at Theodore for too long. Finally, he lowered his book and looked directly into her eyes. Startled, Renata froze. Oh my God, she wanted to scream. When did he start looking at me? After a moment, Theodore suddenly asked if she liked reading. Renata jumped, surprised. Theodore continued, You've been staring at that book for a while now. Renata wanted to disappear. I was watching your expression, she thought. Not the book. But she couldn't say that. Composing herself, she replied, Not really. Theodore's expression turned blank. Why? He asked. Renata answered honestly. Because it's not very interesting. It just makes me sleepy, Renata reminisced. In my past life, I read some really captivating and interesting books, but in this life, I don't even know if such books exist anymore. Besides, in our impoverished circumstances, we don't have the luxury of things like books. Theodore was taken aback by Renata's reasoning. Books, not interesting and sleep-inducing? Then what do you like? Renata was startled by the question, breaking out in a cold sweat. Honestly, when I was here with Aunt Rita, you wouldn't even spare me a glance. So why are you so talkative now? Theodore, still remarkably patient, waited for an answer. Coupled with the current events, he was starting to get annoyed. You don't like anything? Renata froze, embarrassed, unable to answer. No. I mean, what she actually liked was, of course, Sister Esthera, but she didn't have the courage to say it. She figured Theodore's question was probably about hobbies, like reading or horseback riding, but all she did was carry around those heavy sacks. Then, a sudden idea sparked in her eyes. I love to eat delicious food, she explained her passion to Theodore. Yes, that's another reason why I like it here. There's so much delicious food. Theodore asked, puzzled. Really, just thinking about food made Lyanthis' mouth water. The first steak I ever had was here. I also learned that you can make steak with lamb. Oh, and the fish grilled like a steak. How can fish be so delicious? Theodore remarked. That was dinner the day before yesterday. He thought, but eating is a basic need, so it doesn't count as a hobby, does it? Then he asked with a smile. I believe no one dislikes that. Seeing his smile, Lyanna was taken aback, her face filled with apprehension. Theodore continued, There's a reason people call me a gourmand. What's the most delicious thing you've discovered recently? Theodore subtly gestured toward a chair. Lyanna hesitated. Does he want me to sit down? Perching gingerly on the edge of the chair, Lyanna replied awkwardly, Actually, I saw something called pudding for the first time recently. Theodore asked curiously, Oh, is it delicious? Lyanna giggled. Well, since it's not within my rank, I only watched them eat it. I haven't tasted it myself. Theodore didn't understand the phrase within my rank. Lyanna explained, because the ingredients for making pudding are expensive, they don't make much, so only high-ranking or long-serving servants get to have it. Theodore listened thoughtfully. Lyanna suddenly remembered something. Oh, the chicken yesterday was also very delicious. But Theodore's next words made her wish she could disappear into the floor. He said, That wasn't chicken yesterday. It was pheasant. Lyanna panicked. Pheasant? That bird is also so delicious? Then the meat from the meal the day before was also. She began to speculate. There are so many interesting dishes in this world, Lyanna thought. People eat everything, even if it's poisonous. Furthermore, she found that talking to Theodore wasn't scary at all. On the contrary, it felt warm. I wonder if Theodore feels the same way. The scene changed to late at night. Theodore was still standing by the window, leaning against it. He recalled Lyanna's words from earlier today and found them amusing. Then, suddenly, he felt dizzy. The color in his eyes began to shift, and his face turned pale. Just then, Ort arrived and knocked on Theodore's door. Master Theodore, it's me, Ort. Inside the room, Theodore was in agony, as if suffering a seizure. Ort, standing outside, called out, I have news to report. Theodore struggled to control his body, sweat dripping down his face. After calming down, he told Ort to come in. As soon as Ort entered, he saw Theodore's current state and asked with concern, Master Theodore, are you unwell? Theodore immediately waved his hand and said, It's nothing. Then he asked, What is it? Ort immediately reported, It's like this. Count Pablo's daughter is coming to visit tomorrow. After dinner with the Baroness, You will have tea with her, so I came to remind you to be prepared." Theodore was very surprised. How did it become like this? Ort replied nervously, "It's the Baroness's orders, sir." Theodore looked dismayed, as if he didn't want to attend tomorrow's dinner. Frankly, Count Pablo's daughter was a close friend of Theodore's mother, Baroness Caro. In fact, this young lady was the most likely candidate to become Theodore's spouse. It was said that Theodore's potential marriage partners had been narrowed down to about 3, but Theodore didn't care who these 3 were. Theodore said to Ort, taking her to the private residence for a conversation might seem more normal. Inwardly, Theodore was worried, thinking, she wants me dead so badly, yet now she's using me so cautiously. If I die under these circumstances, once the wedding is over, she'll dissect my rotting corpse and sell it off. Then he asked Ort, what should I prepare? Thoroughly bathe, diligently escort the young lady to the bedroom when she arrives, and act like a stud. Hearing this, Ort was so astonished that he had to quickly stop Theodore. He timidly said, if you're not ready yet, then. But before Adi could finish, Theodore cut him off. Are you planning to just sit here with her, drinking tea in my house? Adi, scolded, was terrified. Theodore, silent, fell in a deep thought. Then he said, prepare as instructed. Hearing this, Adi quickly bowed and excused himself. As for Theodore, he was preoccupied with various thoughts. He thought of his parents with resentment. To her, I'm not a son, but a valuable doll that helps maintain her status. Or rather, I'm not even fortunate enough to be a doll. Father didn't even hesitate to sell me off to him. I'm just a piece on his chessboard. He might even want me dead more than Mother does, if it spared him the trouble of dealing with the heir's funeral. The painful memory of his older brother's death flooded Theodore's mind. He was just a child back then. Witnessing that scene, he was so frightened that even as he grew older, the image remained deeply etched in his memory. The more he thought about it, the more restless he became. But it was because of that day that he still had a reason to live. Seeing the changes in Reynard's room, Susan was throwing a tantrum and yelling at him. Susan kept ranting, "Are you stupid? Even toddlers know that eating poisonous things will kill you." Reynard explained, "No, Mr. Theodore said that if you remove the poison, it's edible. He said if you remove the poison sac or the poisonous parts, it's okay, like cutting off a scorpion's tail and then frying it." Susan asked, "Why would you fry it?" Reynard innocently replied, "Because it's delicious." Susan, extremely annoyed, struggled to contain herself. "I'm telling you, humans are really stupid." But Reynard still tried to justify himself, persuading Susan, "I'm serious. If it's wild monsters, they catch crickets and eat them, maybe even snakes, and they even drink mud to survive." Hearing this, Susan retorted, "What do you think monsters are like? We have taste buds too, you know." Then Susan jumped up and down, continuing her rant angrily. "I've told you a million times, I'm a high-ranking monster, so don't treat me like a blob of slime." Lyanthis sighed, teasing, "Super slime." Then Susan turned around. "I'm not talking to you anymore." Seeing this, Lyanthis said, "Is Susan sulking? Well then, I'm going to bed. Before going to sleep, she could get a good jab at Susan. But you know what's really amazing, Susan? Talking to Mr. Theodore is very comfortable. Even though I know he's a nobleman, there's nothing scary about him. I thought he'd be a terrifying lunatic, like in that novel, but it doesn't seem to be the case. He's completely different. So not all nobles are stuffy. Honestly, I have a small wish to talk to him again." The next day, the young lady from the Pablo family visited Theodore's house. She chatted brightly and radiantly. "You must have used high-quality tea. The scent of the tea is truly mellow." But Theodore said coldly, "Perhaps." The young lady realized, I blurted that out. I have a habit of commenting on the tea whenever I visit Nerl's house. "So, please forgive me if I was rude." Theodore said, "It's all right. I don't know much about tea either." Leonida was in charge of serving and pouring the tea. She felt the atmosphere was awkward and uncomfortable. She wondered, why did the atmosphere suddenly become strange after this young lady arrived? I feel like a small shrimp struggling between 2 whales. One is flirting, while Theodore is giving curt replies. But Leonida also had to give a fair assessment. This young lady is truly beautiful, and that shimmering blonde hair. Even when she just smiles gently, she exudes gentleness and nobility. Her demeanor and purity reminded her of Sister Esther. It turned out that Leonida's standard of beauty was Esther. Leonida chatted cheerfully with Theodore. "By the way, have you heard that Erlgant just built a huge greenhouse? It's said that a single tulip grown there is worth a worker's monthly wage." Hearing the young lady speak, Leonida had to admit with regret, "Every word she says is unlike my sister. She always spouts nonsense." She thought I should hurry and pour the tea then leave. But as Renatis placed the teapot on the table, she saw Theodore's hand trembling. She thought it was strange. Even if the Countess hadn't caught Theodore's attention, he wasn't the type to tremble in front of a woman. Even if he liked her, he would restrain himself. Theodore's face began to pale. Renatis felt a surge of panic as she saw the redness creeping into his eyes. This was bad. If he lost control here, it would be a disaster. Despite the Countess's continued peals of laughter, Renatis steeled herself and interrupted their conversation. "I apologize," she said, "but it seems today isn't a good day for tea." The Countess, utterly taken aback, froze, as if unable to comprehend what had just happened. Seeing this, Renatis was shocked. Just those few words had erased all traces of the Countess's previous friendliness. On the other hand, it also implied that servants weren't allowed to speak without permission. In that moment, Renatis suddenly understood why Pablo had abruptly changed her demeanor earlier. Pablo seemed to realize she had lost control of her expression. Afraid of losing face, she immediately plastered on a cheerful, friendly smile. Renatis, watching this, was speechless with astonishment. Pablo spoke first. "Mr. Theodore, since we've finished our tea, it's best to let the maid leave." Renatis, worried that Theodore's condition would be discovered, quickly stepped in front of him, stammering an explanation that Theodore wasn't feeling well and that sending her away now would surely turn into a major incident. Pablo was about to say something more, but Renatis cut her off. "Miss, I'll come visit you another day." Renatis did this for Pablo's sake. If Theodore lost control, things would become incredibly complicated. Renatis tried to persuade her. "Mr. Theodore is unwell, so I can't say anything more. Please understand." Pablo knew she wouldn't get a response from Theodore, so she stood up to leave. With an elegant curtsy, Pablo said, "Theodore, I'll come again." After Pablo left, Renatis rushed to Theodore's side. She didn't notice Pablo looking back at her with a terrifying expression. Renatis anxiously called Theodore's name. "Are you all right? Say something." Theodore trembled, hugging himself. He didn't have the strength to speak. Renatis looked around. She needed to find a way to give him her liquid. She decided the teacup was the best option, intending to use it as a vessel. But before she could touch the teacup, Theodore abruptly pulled her back. Renatis' eyes widened as Theodore's face drew closer. She squeezed her eyes shut in fear, thinking he would bite her. But after a moment, the expected pain didn't come. Renatis slowly opened her eyes, wondering what had happened. She saw Theodore had collapsed against her. He was on the verge of losing control, his breathing heavy. Even as he teetered on the precipice, Theodore fought to maintain control, using every ounce of strength to hold himself back, battling the encroaching curse alone. Watching him, Renatis felt a pang of heartache. She softly whispered his name, then, on impulse, kissed his lips. Theodore's entire body stiffened. Renatis wasn't much better. After initiating the kiss, she froze, completely stunned. The problem was, Renatis had no idea what to do next. She had never even held a man's hand, let alone been in a romantic situation. In a novel she'd read, the male lead always took the initiative, but now Theodore didn't have the strength to do anything. Just as she was at a loss, a passage from one of those books suddenly flashed through her mind. In that moment, as I traced those rugged lines, I felt a strange sensation spread through my body. Her lips parted slightly, and taking the opportunity, his tongue darted in like a serpent, winding its way past the gate. Reanita began to follow the instructions detailed in the book, moving with a mechanical precision. Seeing Theodore's fangs peeking out, she thought, perhaps because the madness hadn't completely consumed him, his fangs were still small, like a puppy's. Somehow, she found it endearing. Reanita then regained her composure, intending to continue what she had started. Theodore, finding a surge of strength from somewhere, suddenly pulled Reanita closer, catching her off guard as he pressed his lips against hers once more. Theodore continued to kiss Reanita deeply. Having just recovered some precious air, Reanita gasped, "If you keep doing this, you won't be able to breathe either." But before she could finish her sentence, Theodore pulled her in for another kiss. The teacup was still there. If Reanita had managed to grab it, this scene might not have happened. She told herself, this kiss didn't go beyond the treatment method. I'm just replenishing his fluids to soothe his frenzy. Nothing more. Despite telling herself this, the kiss still gave Reanita a different feeling. Upon returning to the room, Sujin immediately questioned Reanita about her swollen lips. She hadn't expected her lips to swell to this extent, her face completely flushed. Reanita cried, explaining that because Theodore had bitten licked, and sucked. Her lips were now swollen. Having absorbed enough of Renatis' fluids, Theodore suddenly fainted. Ani immediately took him away and handled everything. Perched on Renatis' head, Sujin asked expectantly, "Where's my food?" Renata replied indifferently, "What?" Hearing this, Sujin angrily slapped Renatis' face, but she didn't mind. Renata, her face still flushed, was recalling the moment before Theodore fainted. He had returned to normal and looked at Renata with a blush. Recalling Theodore's expression, she unconsciously touched her lips. Even now, the tingling sensation still lingered. Elsewhere, a poor teacup was suddenly thrown and shattered in a fit of rage. It was Pablo. After leaving Theodore, she shouted furiously, "How dare she chase me away in front of Theodore? Don't even dream that I'll let you off. I won't let this go." The next morning, in the mansion, Renata was sleeping soundly in her bed. Suddenly, she woke up with a start. Renata's movements were so large that they woke Sujin, who was lying beside her. She hurriedly rushed out, wanting to check on Theodore. Unwilling to be ignored, Sujin called Renata back, wanting her to bring her breakfast. Renata winked playfully. "Since Sujin is a powerful monster, I'm sure you can find food yourself." Bidding Sujin farewell, Renata hurried down the hallway, anxious to know if Theodore was all right. He seemed to have calmed down the last time she saw him, but she still needed to confirm it again to be at ease. As she walked, a maid called out to Renata. She turned her head curiously, seemingly not recognizing the maid. The maid said, "Someone is looking for you in the backyard." Renata asked in surprise, "Looking for me?" The maid, seemingly afraid, replied in a low voice, "I'm not sure, but you should hurry." Watching the maid's retreating back, as if she wanted to run away, Renata sighed. "Someone else believes the rumors about the red-haired witch." She turned and walked away, thinking, "But there's no need to be so afraid of me. After all, I can't use magic at all." Thinking of this, Renata couldn't hide the disappointment in her eyes. Arriving in the backyard garden, Renata couldn't help but wonder, who would be looking for me? Besides Sujin, I can't think of anyone else, but she couldn't possibly be here. Renata began to speculate. Could it be someone who believes the rumors about the red-haired witch, like the maid this morning? The more she thought about it, the more she felt it was true, completely oblivious to someone approaching her from behind. The person reached out, grabbed Renata's hair, and yanked it back. Renatis' hair was suddenly yanked back, a jarring pull that sent confusion swirling through her. She stared at the maid before her, bewildered, and demanded to know who she was. The maid offered no reply. Renatis, reacting instinctively, seized the hand tangled in her hair and with a surprisingly effortless shove, freed herself, sending the maid sprawling several feet away. Physical strength, it turned out, was one of Renatis' hidden talents. The maid, clearly taken aback, hadn't anticipated such force from someone she'd so easily accosted. Her face registered a mixture of shock and indignation. A voice cut through the air, "Pablo's." Renatis's gaze shifted towards the sound, her heart sinking with a familiar disappointment as she took in the scene unfolding before her. "Pathetic. You can't even restrain a girl half your size." Pablo's voice dripped with scorn. The maid immediately bowed her head in submission. "My apologies, Miss Pablo." Pablo continued her tirade, forced to stand here in the blazing sun, and now this. She stalked towards Renatis, looming over her with a condescending sneer. "A lowly maid like you, daring to defy me? How should I kill you to amuse myself?" A chilling smile played on Pablo's lips, the words laced with a casual cruelty that left Renatis frozen in place. She wanted to explain, to make Pablo understand the events of that day, but Pablo refused to listen. The perceived humiliation of Renatis' defiance in front of Theodore festered within her. Renatis struggled to find the words to explain without revealing Theodore's condition. The moment she opened her mouth, Pablo cut her off. Elsa, the maid from before, acting on her mistress's unspoken command, grabbed Renatis' hair again, forcing her to her knees. Pablo's reasoning was simple. Renatis had dared to speak without permission. Not content with that, she pressed Renatis' face into the dirt beneath her. Renatis' fists clenched. The realization hit her with a sickening thud. Pablo didn't care about the circumstances. She was simply feeling malicious and taking it out on her. The anticipation of the inevitable blows sent Renatis spiraling back to the darkness of her past. In this situation, there was only one thing she could do. beg for forgiveness. After a long moment, Renatis, humiliated and bruised, choked out a plea for mercy. Pablo's face remained impassive. Renatis's jaw tightened. It was clear Pablo wasn't finished with her yet. Clutching her wounds, Renatis thought bitterly, I was beaten by my father, but no one here has ever treated me like this. Everyone here has been so kind, I forgot that not everyone in the world is good. Pablo, noticing Renatis' silence, spoke coldly. Who allowed you to stop apologizing? Elsa stepped forward, hand raised to strike Renatis on behalf of her mistress. Renatis squeezed her eyes shut, bracing for the impact, but never came. After a long moment, she cautiously opened her eyes. Someone had intervened, stopping Elsa mid-swing. Renatis stared, wide-eyed, at the newcomer. It was Inst. What is happening here? He demanded, his grip firm on the maid's wrist. Renatis was stunned. Inst? What was he doing here? His voice, sharp with authority, continued. This is the garden of the Caro residence. Outsiders are not permitted here. Leave. He gestured dismissively towards the maid. The maid bristled, her voice rising in indignation. Who are you to give me orders? Do you know who this young lady is? She gestured angrily towards the bright-haired young woman with the parasol. Pablo looked down her nose at Inst, her expression haughty. My apologies, Inst said smoothly. I am but a simple swordsman, unskilled in social graces. He offered a slight bow. Therefore, I do not know who this young lady is. The maid's jaw tightened. This insufferably rude brute. He then introduced himself. I am Inst de Glacis, personal knight to young Master Theodore. Please understand, I am merely ensuring the safety of this residence. Miss Pablo studied him. De Glacis, he must be the son of some noble knight. A subtle smile played on her lips. And me, Camilla de Pablo, she introduced herself, no longer haughty, but with a bright smile. Yesterday, at the Viscount's invitation, I had tea with Master Theodore. Renatis was speechless at her swift transformation. What? Where did that shrew who was glaring at me just a moment ago go? Her attitude had completely changed upon seeing Instrode. Was it because of his connection to Theodore? Unfortunately, a small incident occurred during their tea time. Pablo's cheerful demeanor seemed to vanish. She pushed all the blame on Renatis, so I came over to give some guidance to the maid who caused such chaos. Scratches marred her face, but she looked up at Instrode resolutely. No, I never intended that. I am innocent. Instrode was immediately put in a difficult position. I understand this lady's feelings. Hearing him say that, Renatis felt as if she'd been struck by lightning. She lowered her head in anguish, fighting back tears. It wasn't like that. I just wanted to save Master Theodore and her. If my sister, Estella, were here, she would definitely be on my side, no matter what I did. She consoled herself, suppressing her pain. Don't cry. I have to stand up. Even without her, it's just me and Instrode. She continued thinking. However, Master Theodore holds great respect for those who belong to him. He knelt down and helped the stunned Renatis to her feet. If you also wish to belong to him, you should at least know. Still reeling from the shock, she turned to look at him. Why, Instrode? Suddenly, Pablo scoffed. This is rich, isn't it? Are you saying that filthy maid is one of Master Theodore's people? Instrode extended his hand for her to take. Take my hand, he urged. Renatis slowly reached out to him. Why? Her face flushed crimson. Instrode smiled. She is not simply a maid. Renatis blushed even deeper, unable to lift her head. What I mean to say is something only those who will walk alongside Master Theodore in the future can understand. Instrode gently helped her up. Renatis was still bewildered. What are you saying? How dare you provoke Lady Pablo while she's still standing here? Pablo's expression was no longer haughty, but numb with anger. Renatis, shocked, huddled closer to Instrode. I'm scared, Mr. Instrode. Renatis bit her lip, watching him. Honestly, she didn't understand why Instrode would go this far. But the fact remained that he, a nobleman, was on her side. This would cause a huge explosion in Lady Pablo's heart. A wave of relief washed over her. She looked down happily at her hand, resting in Instrode's palm. Pablo gripped the handle of her parasol tightly. Enough. The lady spun around sharply. I'll ask Master Theodore directly later. The maid beside her also turned with a look of regret. It seemed the maid had received sufficient guidance. That's enough for today. Instrode successfully helped Renatis to her feet. Renatis was also startled. They were more willing to leave than she had anticipated. She glanced back, but it seemed there were no others who required guidance. She watched in surprise as they left the garden. Renatis grew even more flustered. Oh my goodness, what should I do? Because of me, Instrode had to say those things. Regret gnawed at her. Instrode approached and asked, his face etched with concern. Are you all right? I'm fine, but Instrode was more concerned about her than she'd expected. You don't look all right at all. Your lip is split and your face is covered in scratches. Instrode looked closer. It's swollen here, too, and your hands are scraped. We need to get you treated as soon as possible. Come with me. Pulled along by him, Renatis didn't dare to resist, obediently following. Okay. Watching his back, Renatis blushed, lost in thought. I think I understand the feeling of being moved by a warm, supporting character. Meanwhile, Theodore was strolling down the hallway. Strange. He couldn't quite put his finger on it, but something felt amiss. The last time he'd been overtaken by possessiveness, the memory was hazy, fragmented. But why was this time so starkly clear? Theodore couldn't understand. He leaned against the wall, bewilderment clinging to him like a shroud. He decided he needed to find her. Back in his room, the awkwardness intensified. He hadn't been fully controlled. Perhaps he needed to talk to her now. He moved towards the door. Strange sounds drifted from within. Sounds of pain. Theodore frowned. The voice. Don't pretend I can't do anything, he thought he heard. Then, Strata's voice. Now open your mouth wider. More ambiguous sounds followed. He couldn't stand it. He kicked the door open, the accusation ripping from him. What are you doing? Before him, Ernstrade was applying medicine to Reynolds' lips. She gasped his name. Theodore, what are you doing here? Are you all right? His gaze fixated on the medicine stick near her mouth. He froze. Medicine applying ointment to his lips. Theodore's face flushed crimson. Theodore had barged in, but now just stood there, frozen in the doorway. No, that wasn't right. He just didn't know what to say. Mortification curled through him at his misunderstanding. Please continue. Reynolds blinked. Are you leaving? Master Theodore, what's wrong? Ernstrade asked, equally surprised. Reynolds watched him. I don't know what happened, but I'm glad he's okay. A man appeared, seeing Theodore pacing in the hallway. He rushed towards him. Master Theodore, do you know how long I've been looking for you? I couldn't find you in your room. I was so worried. Orte seemed even more frantic. Why aren't you saying anything? He touched Theodore's shoulder anxiously. Or are you feeling unwell again? Theodore's flushed face swam before him. I'm fine, he blurted out, immediately regretting the defensive tone. Master Theodore, are you sure you're all right? Your face is very red. You should go back to your room immediately. I'll call a doctor right away. Orte's worry escalated into a nervous chatter. And in the meantime, you should have someone bring you something easy to digest, something nutritious. Or perhaps some pudding, if you prefer. He finally found his voice. Yes, he replied. Pudding, Theodore echoed. A plate of pudding materialized before her. Renata's eyes widened. Wow, why is there pudding? Do we have guests today? She still couldn't believe it. Normally, even when the Count visited, they weren't allowed to touch it. No, it seems to be a special request for him, Lyle explained. Reynolds glanced at Theodore. He didn't usually have a sweet tooth. He asked for 20 of them, Lyle added with a touch of awe. He only ate one, so the rest are ours. Did he crave something sweet after that incident? She mused. Inwardly, she was ecstatic. Finally, pudding. I'm so happy. Lyle continued. Since Renata has been wanting pudding, I brought it right away. She beamed at Lyle. Will this help you recover faster? A happy glow suffused Renata's face. Perhaps Claire, who used to be so afraid of me, is more comfortable now. Even though she made a mistake, Morty scolded her. And whenever she was scolded, I was there too. Claire, with tears and snot streaming down her face, looked at Reynolds. So we were scolded together countless times. Reynolds added a careful reminder for Lyle. Please tell Aunt Rita not to worry too much. Thank you, Lyle confided. Orte looked like he wanted to hit Reynolds, but it was actually because he was worried about you. Inwardly, she thought differently. No, it was probably because of Theodore. Then I'll take my leave. Remember to rest and be careful where you go. Claire offered a few reminders before leaving. Clearly, those injuries are from that fight, but Claire still believes the lie about me falling and hurting myself. Reynolds cradled the plate of cakes. I also have Strata. Turns out I'm not as alone as I thought. Sujin appeared, looking at her and exclaiming something. You look terrible. Reynard is angry. Sujin kept anxiously asking, what happened to your face? What happened? She immediately thought of an escape plan, eager to get out of this troublesome situation. She smiled brightly and turned to Sujin. Look, it's pudding. It looks delicious. Let's eat it together. Sujin immediately jumped up. Are you crazy? Your face is like this. How can you still think about eating? People will think you're a monster and come and catch you. Leonida felt a pang of heartache. Is it that bad? But I'm also glad you care about me so much. This way, my efforts in feeding you every morning and evening haven't been wasted. Sujin was speechless. It flew into a rage. Who dares to do this to my subordinate? Tell me quickly, who is it? Sujin asked sharply. Tell me to my face. Reynard turned away, avoiding the trouble. I don't know. Reynard had to say something. It's because of what happened yesterday. I kicked the Earl's daughter out of the room, so I think she held a grudge and caused this. Sujin was furious. So your injuries are from a fight? What's that bitch's name? Where is she? Lyanthis couldn't stand it anymore and nudged its head. Leave it alone. Stop talking about this. What did you say? Stop it right now. She called softly. Sujin, I don't want to talk about those who hate me enough to hurt me. I only want to remember those who cherish me and those I cherish. It was Instrid who saved me and treated my wounds. It was Claire who brought the pudding and told me to rest well. And Auntie Orty and Rita, they were all worried about me. More importantly, you're angry for me, Sujin. Her face flushed. Reynard teased. You look like you're moved by my words. Don't even think about it. It tried to change the subject. Who said I was moved by those words? Reynard secretly smiled. Sujin was embarrassed. She fed it the first piece of cake. So we're still going to eat the pudding together, right? How is it? Is it delicious? You look happy. Compared to what humans make, this isn't too bad. Well, she asked again. Do you like it? I want a bite too. Reynard looked delighted. Oh, right. I almost forgot to mention the most important name. As Lyanthis put the spoon in her mouth, a look of bliss spread across her face. It's delicious. She took a bite of the cake, her heart filled with happiness. Theodore, get ready to leave, he reminded. Yes, Lyanthis, now with him, didn't understand what he was talking about. What should I prepare for? He slowly stood up. You said you haven't used the money I gave you before, right? We need it now. Hearing this, she felt as if struck by lightning. But that's my emergency fund from a few hours ago. We need to strengthen the security of the annex. Instrid made the suggestion to him, but he replied, the authority to deploy security forces belongs to Earl Caro. He thought silently, still referring to his father, as if he were a stranger. Instrid nodded. I understand, but as your personal knight, Lord Theodore, I want to offer my opinion based on what happened. Even if these areas are just annexes, they are still within the Caro mansion. The security force can be less than the main building, but not too little or non-existent. What if we can't respond to emergencies in time? Theodore frowned. What kind of emergency are you talking about? After careful consideration, Instrid continued. Actually, I found a strange guest in the garden of the annex yesterday, or perhaps I haven't been introduced to them. Theodore listened, even more confused. She called herself Madame Pablo. He froze. It was yesterday, not the day before yesterday, he asked again to confirm. Instrid affirmed, it was yesterday. Impossible. He frowned. She was invited the day before yesterday. I lost control. Reynard had to calm me down. Theodore's face involuntarily flushed again. Why did she appear in the annex yesterday? He turned away, concealing his expression at the moment. Instrid was nervous. It was said she was disciplining a disrespectful servant. At that moment, Theodore could no longer maintain his composure as he heard the man continue. It was Renatis. He immediately stood up and questioned him. What exactly was it? Liana was badly beaten, so I helped her back to her room for first aid. So, instead was treating her wounds all day yesterday, he added, his head bowed with concern. Can you repeat the lady's name? Abid instructed, slowly repeating her name. She is Mrs. Camila de Pablo. Camila de Pablo Teodore Murmurez. His expression was more terrifying than ever. I will remember that name. A maid was walking down the hallway with tea. It was Rita Nadia, and she was ecstatic. I must have eaten and rested well yesterday, so the pain subsided after just one night. Aunt Rita and Audi told me to rest today, but I haven't finished my work yet. Theodore seemed to be all right, but as she stopped at his door, she encountered Ernstrud, who was just coming out. Mr. Ernstrud, she called softly. Have you seen Master Theodore? He nodded. I just came from there. He glanced at Renata's face. Then he replied cheerfully, you look well. Renata was taken aback, but she finally remembered what she needed to do. I haven't had a chance to thank you for everything you did yesterday. It's all thanks to you. She bowed her head gratefully. Thank you very much. I didn't do it to earn your favor, he said, waving his hand dismissively, contrary to Renata's anxiety. Well, next time, if possible, she stammered, reminded of something very soft and warm. Ernstrud had been patting her head. My head. Liana took a step back and slightly raised her head as well. He chuckled and retracted his hand. Don't be so infuriating next time, Ernstrud reminded her. Renatis nodded obediently. What is this? She thought. This feels strange. Renatis sighed. I try to avoid such things, but perhaps I'm just that type. Instead frowned. That type. Theodore's door suddenly opened, interrupting Renatis. My father used to say I was the type to infuriate people, he complained. It's too noisy. He also grumbled. You two seem to be having a lot of fun in front of my room. Renatis panicked. Master Theodore, I brought you tea. Instead also made an excuse to leave. Then I'll excuse myself to go on patrol. She followed him into the room. Instead smiled thoughtfully. She looks just like a little lamb. Liana's heart was now in turmoil, and she was worried as she poured the tea because he kept staring at her. Liana muttered under her breath, "What is this? Why does he keep staring at me like that? Did I do something wrong?" Furthermore, she couldn't help but speak up. "I didn't expect." Theodore turned away haughtily. "What is it?" Theodore turned around to hide his blushing face. Looking at her face reminded him of the past, but she still came to serve him even though her wounds hadn't fully healed. She should rest more. At that moment, Renatis was trembling. "Hey," he called softly. "Morty said you've never left the mansion." She was startled. "Ah, yes. Get ready," he instructed. Lyanthis was stunned. "Yes. What do you mean?" She didn't understand what he meant. He stood up and replied, "You said you haven't touched the money I gave you before, right? We're going to start using it." Her spirits completely crumbled. "But that's my emergency money." Renatis cried out in anguish, tears welling up in her eyes. "Wait, what money does Theodore want?" She recalled the amount she had received from Theodore before, but today wasn't payday. "So he's talking about," Renatis thought, then replied, "It's the bonus. I've also been carefully saving up to live with my sister, but today I had to use it." Lyanita looked at the price tag on the dress with anguish, trembling even though she didn't want it at all. What kind of dress costs 4.25 million Luna? She was dumbfounded. This must be why Theodore gave me 2 million Luna. If I wear these, I won't even know where to go. She murmured as she looked at something else. How about this one? Leonata was starting to feel frustrated. What is this? He was lost in thought on the other side. She glanced over. Is Theodore thinking? Since you don't want to leave me, and you've never been out, it's a good thing I have business in the shopping district today. So let's go together. Lyanthis was speechless, but she cursed inwardly. It's not that I don't want to buy anything. It's that I can't afford anything. Now he's actually expecting me to shop in such a luxurious place. At this rate, I'll have to pick out something cheap just to get out of here. A woman walked up to her and called out, "Hey, you," she shouted. "What on earth are you doing?" Lyanthis stared blankly. "Me? What did I do? What did I do?" The shopkeeper angrily snatched the clothes back. "You've been fiddling with these clothes for a while now. What are you trying to do?" Lyanthis couldn't understand why she was being so rude to a customer. "I was just looking." But the woman snapped at Lyanthis. "Do you know how much these clothes cost? You can't afford them. If you understand, then leave." Lyanthis asked pointedly, "Are you kicking me out?" The woman nodded. "Who else would I be talking to? Why even ask? If people like you keep loitering here, this shop will look cheap, so get out of here." She clenched her fists. "Are you going to hit me?" After a moment of thought, Lyanthis said, "I just wanted to say thank you very much." The shopkeeper, hearing her words, froze, quite surprised. Lyanthis silently thanked the heavens. "That's right, it's not that I don't want to buy, it's that I can't afford it. What else can I do when a staff member, or a manager, or whoever is kicking me out? So I have a justifiable reason to tell Theodore to go back, and my money is saved." Yes, these clothes are too expensive for me." Just then, Theodore returned. Did something happen? Both of them noticed Theodore, especially the shopkeeper. So handsome, such gleaming, elegant clothes. He must be a nobleman. She gushed. "My sincerest apologies, sir. We were just dealing with a small issue." "Before you arrived, sir, were you looking for something? If you need anything, please let me know." She kept interrupting Lyanthis, not giving her a chance to speak. "Hey, lady, let me get a word in. It seems this person doesn't know Theodore and I came together. But I understand. Unlike Theodore, I look like a poor commoner. Sigh. There's nothing I can do about it." Theodore, finding this strange, growled, "I'd like to ask what you did to my friend." Lyanthis was both surprised and embarrassed. The shopkeeper was stunned for a few seconds. Lyanthis thought, bewildered, "Mr. Theodore, what does this mean?" And his question seems to have changed things somehow, especially and more importantly, he looks angry. The shopkeeper immediately lowered her head. "I'm very sorry. I didn't realize she was your friend. I couldn't imagine. No, I didn't think that this was your friend." Theodore then said casually, "You don't even know how to properly apologize, and you shouldn't be apologizing to me." At that, she turned to Lyanthis. "I sincerely apologize, miss. Please forgive my rudeness." Lyanthis waved her hand dismissively. "Oh, it's fine. I wasn't planning on buying anything anyway, and I'm not comfortable accepting this forced apology." "Then let's go." As soon as he finished speaking, the shopkeeper said, Wait a moment. To make up for my mistake, I'll take you to the VIP section. Lyanthis wanted to cry, but no tears came. Just let me go. It's fine. I'm really okay, so I'll just let it go. The VIP section probably has even more expensive things. Oh my God, just kick me out. I don't want to spend money. No, I don't want to lose any money at all. Theodore was sterner than Lyanthis. If it were me, I wouldn't want to buy anything after seeing such terrible customer service. Let's go to another store. Lyanthis called out, Mr. Theodore, wait for me. Before leaving, Lyanthis looked back doubtfully. Did the shopkeeper learn her lesson from this foolish behavior? Lyanthis mused. Is this what it feels like to be protected by the male lead of a novel? How refreshing. Even anxious about Theodore's reaction, leading them to another shop selling women's clothing. Astrid, curious, asked, Isn't that the biggest shop? If you're not satisfied, I'll take you to another one. It might be more expensive, but Rena suddenly interrupted. Wait a minute, Mr. Theodore. It's getting late. We should head back, Astrid added. But the sun still shone brightly. Theodore guessed it was probably because of what happened earlier in the store. I'll accompany you to the next shop. Rena Glames, he offered. But if we do that, I'll have no choice but to buy something. I don't want to tell Theodore, who is both the shop owner and a nobleman. There's no other way. Mr. Theodore, I'd prefer the money. Theodore froze. What are you saying? Rena spoke quickly. I'm very grateful for your kindness, Mr. Theodore. I know you want to compensate me with a new dress for my old one. But for me, this money is very important for my future. It's much better than a dress I might not even have a chance to wear. Astrid, about to burst into laughter, was silenced by Rena's gaze. Rena said sincerely, truly, once everything settles down and Mr. Theodore is fully recovered, when all of this is over, I want to leave the mansion and live with the person I love. A pang of something like pain resonated in Theodore's chest. Rena was doing everything for her beloved, Esther. Astrid was slightly surprised. She had someone in her heart. The three of them harbored different thoughts. Theodore didn't press her further. Shall we go back then? Rena was incredibly grateful. Yes, I'm glad. It seems my sincerity has been understood and my money has been saved. I didn't do anything, but I'm still tired. I want to go back and rest immediately. As soon as Rena got into the carriage, she fell asleep. Theodore watched her, thinking she must be exhausted. I can't believe she fell asleep as soon as she got in. Is she unwell? Rena continued to sleep without a stir. Theodore, meanwhile, tossed and turned in his seat. When all of this is over, I want to be with the person I love, he repeated her earlier words. She looked so happy when she mentioned that last part. The day the berserk seized Theodore, when he knew a terrible fate awaited him, he seemed to give up. He saw the end almost clearly. He, too, would meet a tragic end. Which is worse, a painful death or having no one more my departure from this world? Why should I even care? In the end, both await me. His parents called Theodore a monster. Living a life devoid of even a sliver of hope, he no longer wished for things to go his way. Today, too. Actually, those clothes were meant to atone for my mistake. I just want to make her feel better because the guilt was eating me alive. It's my fault she was beaten so badly. But in the end, it was she who forgave me again. Rena stirred uncomfortably, murmuring in her sleep, My hair is so itchy. Theodore brushed her hair aside. Rena continued to mumble in her sleep, I don't like this at all. Theodore slowly retracted his hand. Well, if my berserk hadn't erupted, she wouldn't have been dragged to this mansion and beaten like that. She must hate me. Rena was dreaming. I can't eat anymore. I can't stand it. My stomach is going to burst. No more eating. Then I'll just have pudding. One wondered what Theodore was thinking, watching this scene unfold. Witches are merely tools suitable for the berserk. That's what Father said. So I eagerly kissed her lips back then, because a witch's magic can alleviate that maddening craving. That's what I thought. The carriage suddenly lurched violently. Theodore, now close to Rena, simply watched her and chuckled softly. Then Theodore called out to Astrid outside. Astrid replied cheerfully, Yes, sir. Theodore, do you need something? Theodore wanted them to slow down. Astrid said, But then we'll be very late when we arrive. Theodore instructed, It doesn't matter if we're late. Just go slower. Safety first. Theodore had never heard of a witch who could both see and possess a warm heart, let alone offer hope to others. Yet somehow, when I'm with her, I have this feeling, a premonition of a gentler ending awaiting me. Is it because of your magic? A moment from Theodore's childhood flashed vividly before his eyes. Seeing him cry like this, a man approached. Why are you crying? I don't want to talk. All right, get up. Let's go home. Theodore's expression suddenly became distraught. The man was covered in blood. Even Theodore's hands were stained with the crimson liquid. Guilt flooded his senses. Poor Theodore, a child inheriting cursed blood, heir to the great Caro. You're just like me. Hope, or anything like it, it's all meaningless. You can't escape this fate. Theodore's eyes widened. What was this feeling of dread? His entire being seemed devoid of life, of hope. Lena was about to cover him with a blanket when Theodore abruptly woke from his nightmare. Lena, what are you doing? Lena glanced around nervously. I wasn't doing anything. I just brought up some hot tea, but you were asleep, so I thought I should cover you with something. Theodore breathed a sigh of relief. Just a dream. Lena seemed flustered. I really just brought up a blanket. The weather has been so unpredictable lately, hot during the day and cold at night, so I was afraid you'd catch a cold. My sister always said it's easy to get sick in this kind of weather, Theodore remarked. It seems you and your sister are very close. Lena brightened. Of course. Do you know how kind my sister is? She raised me from a young age. Theodore wondered aloud. How old were you when she started raising you? Lena reminisced, 22. My mother passed away when I was very young. It would be troublesome if I kept talking about such family matters. I don't remember my mother, and I don't want to bring up my father. Besides, if he starts taking an interest in my sister, it's over. That unforgettable story will begin. No more talk about family then. But, hey, Theodore, you're an only child, right? The novel didn't mention the reason for Theodore's ferocious behavior, only that he was the sole heir to the Caro family. So he must be an only child. Theodore's answer surprised Lena. I had an older brother. Lena had assumed a younger brother, but the novel hadn't said so. If that were the case, then why was Theodore the heir? Usually, the eldest son should inherit. Could it be that his brother was too rude and unruly, and thus not granted the inheritance? Since the novel didn't mention anything, perhaps he left the mansion long ago, following his heart to be with a commoner woman. Theodore said, had one. So where's he now? Theodore's answer shocked Lena. Dead. 18 years ago. Because of the rampage. Right before my eyes. Learning that Theodore's brother died 18 years ago due to a rampage, Lena nodded, trembling with fear. She couldn't believe it. It was all so sudden, this dead brother appearing out of nowhere, and he died from the same rampage. Then, she mustered the courage to ask Theodore, couldn't they find someone like me back then? Theodore replied, no, they couldn't. Hearing this, Lena was utterly bewildered. Seeing the look of alarm and curiosity on her face, Theodore continued, my brother couldn't control the rampage and killed the witch. After the witch died, he became even more frenzied. In the end, my father shot him. Hearing this, Lena was stunned. She stammered, really? Theodore turned his head away in anguish. The scene of the murder, the moment of his brother's death, playing out in his mind. I witnessed it all. The truth is it all happened right before my eyes. A multitude of thoughts raced through Lena's mind. She wondered, I don't know what his relationship with his brother was. But I know how terrifying it must be to witness a family member kill someone, to see family turn on each other. Theodore, seeing Lena's trembling hands, thought worriedly. That must have shocked her quite a bit. But no matter what, I can't guarantee I can control this berserk state without hurting anyone. He sighed, telling Reynolds, go back now. But before he could finish, she stepped forward and wrapped him in a blanket. Theodore was taken aback. What is this? What are you doing? Reynolds patted his cheek, reassuring him. It's all right, Theodore. I promise you won't do those things anymore. Only good things will happen. I'm healthy, so it's impossible for me to die so soon. But her proximity made him feel a little breathless. Realizing her strange actions, Reynolds felt incredibly embarrassed, wishing she could disappear into a hole in the ground. She stammered, this is, like a happy burrito when you wrap yourself up. Doesn't it feel comfortable? Theodore looked confused. I don't quite understand. Reynolds instantly regretted her words, apologizing and clumsily trying to explain, but I didn't mean any harm. I just thought it would be more comfortable this way. Hearing her awkward explanation, Theodore chuckled. It is warm. Scene change. A quiet and peaceful night. Susan had been fast asleep for a long time, but Lena couldn't stop thinking. Honestly, what was I thinking? What was the point of doing that? Wouldn't it have been easier to stay silent and ignore it? But he's my master. How could I stand idly by after hearing such a story? 18 years ago, Theodore was about 6 years old, right? I know, no male protagonist in a dark story is without a painful past, but this is too much. It all makes sense now. Lyanetta wondered, where did these strange feelings and sadness I feel from Theodore come from? Why can I see an abandoned child in his eyes? It's all because that child still resides within Theodore. How did he endure such a terrible thing? If there were a moment, even with a 1% possibility, no, this rarely happens. Reynolds imagined some very peculiar scenarios. If I saw my sister kill someone, I would panic and ask, "Sister, what did you just do?" She would say, "You saw it, right? Let's have tomato soup tonight." Lyanetta thought with a smile. It's not like that. My sister is too kind, so I can't imagine it. Then she thought of another scenario, holding a knife, calmly, with the coldest expression in the world, approaching the target step by step. My sister is so beautiful. Just as I expected. How can she be both kind and cold-blooded? And I find it beautiful. Suddenly, Reynolds woke up, frantically pounding her pillow, startling Susan awake. Susan asked wearily, "Are you finally losing your mind?" Reynolds asked in surprise. "You're awake, Susan." Susan grumbled irritably. "With all that racket next to me, how could I sleep?" Reynolds explained sadly. "I'm sorry. She's too perfect. I can't help it." Susan said angrily, "First of all, you should shut up. It'll be quieter that way." Hearing this, Reynolds also got angry and shouted, "You slime." Then, lowering her voice, she said softly, "I mean, in this situation, Theodore will continue to be a suffering child, living a miserable life, and that would be sad. So I want to do something for him." Susan asked, puzzled, "Theodore? You mean the owner of this house? You want to make him happy?" Reynolds' eyes lit up like headlights. "Exactly," Susan continued. "He's rich. He lives a better life than you. Why should you worry?" Hearing this, Reynolds was stunned. She explained, "Happiness can't be bought with money." She didn't understand why she blurted out these words with such sincerity in a moment of impulse. Susan laughed. "He can't buy it, only because he doesn't have enough money." Reynolds was struck as if by lightning, feeling an immense pang of anguish. Why does this slime suddenly understand humans so well? I'm still happy living with my sister, even without money. The more Sujin spoke, the angrier Renatis became, because it was so true. It's saying that if you have more money, you'd be even happier than living with your sister, she fumed. "You're right." Renatis continued to grumble. "Damn it, I want to argue against it, but I can't because it's so true." Sujin calmly replied, "There are ways to make someone feel better, even without money." Sujin confidently stated that women make men happier. "You bastard!" Renatis yelled, exasperated. "How much do you know about humans?" In her flustered state, she forgot to rest. Pulling Sujin the slime's face, she demanded, "What are you talking about? I want to make him feel better, but I don't want to do anything weird like that. Where did you learn these things?" Sujin squeaked in pain. "Renatis." Feeling concerned, Renatis softened her tone. "It's just a massage. What's there to be embarrassed about?" The two bickered, Sujin protesting. "I'm talking about a massage. What else could I mean?" Renatis retorted. "Then why did you bring women and men into it when you just wanted to mention a massage? Am I the only one who misunderstood?" She continued, "It would be weird for a man to get a massage from another man. Just thinking about some rough guy touching me gives me goosebumps." Sujin began to understand. "But anyway," Sujin said, "a massage will make him feel better. When he feels better, he won't be sad anymore." Renatis froze, then pinched Sujin's face. "That's right. You're so smart." Sujin, flustered, exclaimed, "What's with this sudden enthusiasm? Don't squish me." Renatis praised Sujin. "You're a genius." Sujin's eyes sparkled, hesitantly asking, "I'm a genius?" She jumped up and down, holding Sujin. "That's right. What's the opposite of a dark story? A sad story? It's a story where the main character finds happiness in life. It's a healing story." Sujin explained. "I'm a genius," Renatis said gleefully. "I'm going to turn this novel pink." Sujin, not understanding what was happening, said, "But how exactly is it healing?" Suddenly, she released Sujin. "I've read a lot of romance novels before, but none of them were calm. Because what I liked in my past life, whether it was emperors, generals, merchants, CEOs, accountants, managers, werewolves, furries, demons, vampires, even in fantasy romance, classical romance, modern romance, or even boys' love, I only like the obsessive, crazy, possessive ones, and in the end, I like them to be the scariest Yandere. That's what I used to like." Renatis laid down in exasperation and screamed. "I should have deleted my search history before I died and taken that warm little trash can with me." She muttered to herself, "Come to think of it, I can remember the details of the books books I read in my past life, but I can't remember how I died. Is it blurred by some unnecessary memories? Was it an accident, or did I get sick? Me, in my past life. Then Sujin yelled angrily, "Hey!" She snapped back to reality, bewildered. "What are you talking about? Why are you suddenly like this? Suddenly yelling at me? How dare you do this to me?" Okay, I'm sorry. I suddenly dropped you," Sujin said. "Are you not going to praise me anymore?" Renatis froze, thinking, this guy. She sighed. This is my fate. Sujin was happy to be hugged and petted. She thought, oh right, the past me is still me, but I'm not like that anymore. My life in that world is over. What matters most now is the present me. So let me try to make this world warm. But she pondered, what exactly is a healing story? How do I do that? She screamed and lay on the bed, stuck again. Sujin beside her said, this crazy woman, what's wrong with her again? Sujin, when do you feel the best? Sujin said, me? It's when the whole world is under my rule and everyone has to kneel before my crown. It's when I rule the world. Renatis said, speaking of happiness, that's the furthest thing. Isn't there anything else? Stop being a monster and be a person. Sujin said, how can I be a person when I'm not even that species? She was exasperated. This is really... So, if you give him something delicious, true happiness, but Theodore definitely eats better things than me. Sujin said, oh, I really enjoy sleeping with you too. Like I said before, you have a strange scent, very sweet and warm, that makes me feel comfortable. So I thought if I lay beside you and listened, I'd have a good dream. Hearing this, Renatis blushed. She explained in surprise, and then Sujin hugged her. It's so nice that you feel the same way. I don't feel lonely because I have you by my side, Sujin said. What's with this sudden reaction? Renatis thought, okay, can we sleep now? A moment later, she lay down, but her mind was still racing. How can I figure out what Sujin is thinking? Delicious food and sleep. The scene shifts to the next morning. Lal brought breakfast to Renatis. Seeing Renatis' lifeless expression, Lal was startled and asked with concern, oh my goodness, what happened to your face? But Renatis just smiled dismissively. Lal pressed on, what's wrong? Renatis replied sadly, nothing, just something on my mind. It turned out that since that day, Lal had become closer. She always cared for Renatis and gave her a lot of advice. Would it be better to rest a bit? Renatis thought, this is healing me right now. She felt incredibly warm. Lal is so kind. Lal told Renatis, I'm going to have a snack and then go to work. Should I tell Aunt Rita about your situation? But Renatis immediately refused. I'm Phoenix. Suddenly, two men passing by overheard the girls' conversation. They said to each other, it's no big deal to walk and chat like this, right? Renatis, who was eating bread, had to turn around to see who they were. One of the men feigned surprise. Oh, you heard all that? Renatis thought angrily. You were talking too loudly. The man said nonchalantly, sorry, I was too busy and didn't realize I was talking and that there were other people around. Only you can calmly sit and eat breakfast with messy hair every morning. Renatis retorted, you're mistaken. My hair is naturally curly, so it's always this fluffy. The man approached her and asked, so what do you do after you get up? Lyle, finding the man too nosy, jabbed her fork into his hand. The man screamed. Renatis, also startled, asked Lyle, what are you doing? Lyle said, trembling, I don't eat enough vegetables. The man yelled, look, we get up before dawn of work. So why does Aunt Rita like this girl so much? And why does Orte pretend not to see her sleeping leisurely? Renatis thought, tell them the situation. Why are you suddenly so nervous? There's no use shouting without knowing the situation. Father and Theodore are always like this, so I'm not afraid anymore. Back in the first episode, she said, I have a special mission. Do you want to see your life ending every day, having to use bodily fluids to save your master? Renatis thought, everyone is captivated by the mistress because she is a witch with pink hair. If that's the case, they wouldn't need to hide her. The more carefree she is, the more everyone else suffers. Everyone is working themselves to death for her. Renatis slammed her hand on the table, sighed, and then slowly said, honestly, Lyle. Then she shouted, where's the axe? Renatis lowered her head and called out to Lyle, where's the axe? She cursed inwardly. Healing novels are so hard. Lyle stammered the axe. She looked at the pitiful face, wanting to convey to Renatis that violence wasn't the answer. Soon, the group arrived at the wood-splitting axe. The group was bewildered by her actions. Rita, Nadia, and Noah glare at each other. Lyle worriedly tried to reason with Renatis. The axe is for chopping wood. You can't use it for anything else. Renatis was confused. What is she talking about? Renatis pointed at Noah's face and yelled, "Hey you said chopping wood every morning is tiring, right? Well, today I'll chop enough so you don't have to." Noah immediately retorted, "Do you know how much firewood this land needs every day? How can a little girl like you chop wood? And if you complain to Orte about me making you chop wood, do you think I'll let you off the hook?" Renata clenched her fists, cursing under her breath. "I feel like chopping something, and it's not wood," she thought, then said aloud. "How about this? If I chop more wood than you in 1 minute, you'll never criticize my work again." Noah asked irritably, "Why would I agree to such a bet?" Renata's reply was unexpected. "If I lose, I'll give you 20% of my monthly salary." Noah hadn't expected her to wager so much. Claire shouted towards the sky. Renata continued, "If you're not confident, you can back out." "No problem," Noah said with a smirk. "All right, if you win, I'll make sure no one says a word against you." Renata was satisfied. "Good, then it's settled. I'll go first." Noah sneered inwardly, thinking, "Even if you beg me later, your salary is still mine. My personal record is 12 pieces of wood in a minute. Do you think you can beat me with those small hands of yours that have probably only used a hatchet? You probably can't even lift an axe," he thought, but the sight before him left him dumbfounded. For those who may have forgotten, remember one thing. Renata was the strongest child in her village. The scene shifted to Theodore's quiet profile. A guard asked him, "Why do you ask, Mr. Theodore?" Theodore shook his head. "No, it's nothing," he replied, or he thought to himself, but he seems unable to turn the page of the book in his hand. Just then, Theodore called Orty's name and asked, "Do you know what Happy Gibap is?" Orty looked dumbfounded and asked back, "Happy Gibap?" Theodore said, "It's all right if you don't know." He remembered what Renata had said to him. Back then, he had sighed to himself, "I should ask Renata about this. After all, it's purely out of curiosity. I wasn't expecting anything. Come to think of it, what else does Renata do besides making tea for me? And she's busy beating that guy." The spectators watching the match were all terrified. Their gazes were all focused on Renata, whispering, "Unbelievable, that girl really chopped 28 pieces of wood in a minute. Noah only chopped 10. Where does that kind of strength come from? Are natural-born witches that powerful?" At that moment, Renata spoke. "All right, now you have to keep your promise." She sighed. "That arrogant guy. Now he can't cause any more trouble." Just then, Claire called to Renata, "Let's go back." Renata turned around and gave Noah a sharp look. "This guy didn't even let me finish my breakfast." Claire quietly asked Renata, "Are you hungry? Should we go see what's left in the dining hall?" Seeing the two gradually leaving, the remaining crowd whispered to each other, "But is she really a witch? She didn't even use magic, just strength." Even Claire said, "She's a good person. She looks like a very ordinary girl." Renata shouted at that moment, "I want kimchi fried rice." Claire didn't understand what kimchi was. Renata thought distressfully, "Am I so hungry that I'm missing all the food I ate in my past life? Bulgogi, kimchi jjigae." Claire was still wondering, "What's kimchi, Renata?" Renata replied, listlessly, "Something that would make me happy right now. The more I think about it, the hungrier I get." Suddenly, a thought flashed through Renata's mind. Happiness. That's right. Why didn't I think of this before? If Theodore has already eaten delicious things, I just need to give Theodore something he's never tasted before. Suddenly, everything became clear. Thinking this, Renata called to Claire, "Let's go to the kitchen now. Hurry, hurry." Claire, who was following behind, was very confused. Why go to the kitchen instead of the dining hall? A moment later, Theodore frowned and said, "I'm pretty sure it's tea time now. What is this enormous thing?" Renata replied excitedly, "It's a snack, you could say, but it can also be considered a meal. Of course, I've also prepared tea. I specially prepared this for you, Mr. Theodore." Then she placed her hands on the lid and lifted it. "Please enjoy." Theodore's eyes widened in surprise. It turned out that a few hours earlier, Rihanna had taken Claire to the kitchen. They went to make Korean food together, but a problem arose while preparing Theodore's meal. Rihanna suddenly remembered she wanted to make grilled meat. Soy sauce is essential. So what should I do? Let's change it to Korea's soul food, tteokbokki. Do you think we have gochujang Korean chili paste here? The biggest problem was the lack of ingredients for Korean cuisine. Seeing Rihanna's dejected look, Claire asked worriedly, "Rihanna, are you all right?" Rihanna thought to herself, how did the cooking characters in healing novels survive in places like this? Making tteokbokki with stew and chicken? Ah, chicken. If it's chicken, we can make it with the ingredients here. Rihanna quickly made up her mind. Let's make fried chicken. Seeing Claire's excitement, Rihanna turned to her and asked, Claire, do you know about fried chicken? Claire nodded. Yes, sir. Theodore doesn't really like fried food, so we don't make it often, but sometimes the chef makes fried dishes. Rihanna asked in a panicked voice. Sometimes he makes fried dishes? Claire replied. The fried fish fillet he made recently was also delicious. Really? Rihanna reproached herself. How could I be so stupid to think there's no chicken in this world? Claire added, but for such a high-class dish, we need the chef's permission. Rihanna had an idea. How about seasoned chicken? That's never been done before. How about making seasoned chicken? Rihanna, pleased with her ingenuity, realized the next second that they didn't have gochujang, bringing her back to square one, utterly dejected. Seeing her distress, Claire asked worriedly, Rihanna, are you really that hungry? So, they cooked pasta, which was readily available. They mixed it with tomato sauce and the chef's special cream sauce, creating a pink sauce. They used red pepper flakes instead of gochujang, and for added sweetness and a chewy texture, they added a lot of sugar. Using squid instead of fish cakes, Rihanna's special pasta teppanyaki was complete. We advise you not to try this at home. Back in the present, Theodore made a face and asked, What is this? Rihanna said excitedly, It's a specialty dish from my hometown and my past life. Theodore thought, a specialty dish for what purpose? Rihanna was also stealthily observing him. Judging by his reaction, it was definitely a dish he had never seen before. Of course, I actually wanted to make dumplings, but I can't make rice cakes or noodles by myself. But delicious things mixed with delicious things means it's bound to be delicious. What if he finds it so delicious that he asks me to be his personal chef? My hidden talent. Theodore began to use his chopsticks. Then, in a hoarse voice, he said, I can't eat this. It tastes strange. Rihanna's fantasy shattered. Impossible. He's supposed to say it's delicious and asked me to make more. She asked doubtfully, It tastes strange? Theodore said, First of all, it's too spicy, but also too sweet. Plus, the scent of honey and the fishy smell are all mixed together. Rihanna thought, is it really that bad? Seeing her expression, Theodore sighed, not wanting to say any more. He was silent for a moment, then said, I'd like some tea. Rihanna thought, he's given up on evaluating it. Soon, night fell, and Rihanna was sitting down, tasting the dish she had made. What does this taste? Spicy, sweet, fishy, and the scent of honey. It's unbearable. Strange, I only used good ingredients. Why does it taste like this? It's surprising Theodore didn't punish me for this. Come to think of it, it makes sense. Esther always did the cooking, and I was only in charge of tasting or handling the ingredients. In my past life, Mom always cooked for us. My mom in that world was a kind and gentle person, a kindergarten teacher. Mother had thick eyebrows and double eyelids. Her smile was beautiful, with two dimples that deepened when she laughed, a lovely smile that seemed to belong only in our traditional house. I remember my past life, but it doesn't feel like my true definition. Yet, thinking of Mother brings a warmth to my heart. If my past life's mother was like this, I wish I had memories of my real mother. According to Estrella, my mother was very kind and gentle and truly beautiful. Even though I don't remember anything, the image of my mother breastfeeding me is like an angel. In any case, I have Estrella, so it's all right. What's important now is finding a way to make Theodore happy. Today's barbecue was a failure, so I need to think of something else. For Theodore's delicious happiness, a voice whispered in the night. I never want to eat that again. I can still taste it. Theodore thought, Spanky, it's like she brought me the food without even trying it herself. I was too flustered to even ask about the seaweed rice rolls. She's such a strange girl, trying so hard. She waited with sparkling eyes for me to say it was delicious, and she even trembled when I commented on the taste. It's adorable. I wonder if she's asleep now, or if she's off doing something strange again by herself. I miss her. A dark shadow appeared, taunting Theodore. How about it? A monster and a witch. If you like her, what will you do? What can you do? What will you do? Just because you miss her? What can you do? Just because you find her cute? Will you yearn for her and stain your hand with blood? You cannot escape this fate. Theodore felt a sharp headache and gasped for air. How dare a mere monster on this side act so presumptuously? Lyanthis stared at the plate in front of her, thinking, what should I do with these leftovers? She was deeply disappointed after her attempt to create a healing story with delicious food failed, despite having slept soundly. Lyanthis suddenly recalled a memory from her past life, that of farming. At this moment, one of the healing activities. Just then, Claire looked at Lyanthis with pride. That's amazing, Lena. Harvesting so many sweet potatoes at once. and not missing a single one. Leonida recalled, her memory a bit hazy, but she remembered quite a few books with farming pictures and healing stories on the cover. Since Claire was in charge of the garden in the morning, picking the leaves was easy. Claire, I'd like to ask you for a favor. And so it led to this scene today. Just then, Claire asked her, do you like farming? Leonida replied, it's not that I like farming, but after returning to the village, I often did a lot of this kind of labor. Claire thought, no wonder she was good at chopping wood before, too. Leonida continued, so when I see a clean field, a harvest like this, I feel a sense of pride and satisfaction. It really puts my mind at ease. Looking back, Leonida didn't know how long it had been since she had worked so peacefully. The high and clear autumn sky, the shining sun, the cool breeze gently blowing across the fields, working in such an environment, sweating with purpose, smelling the fragrance of the earth. Is this why farming is part of the healing stories? It felt like all her worries melted away. She was truly healed. So happy, so happy. Leonida cheered happily in her heart. Lena, you look happy. Suddenly, Leonida's face darkened. She thought, even if I'm healed, what's the use? A nobleman like Theodore wouldn't farm. Theodore strolled elegantly through the garden. The only crops he touched were the ones on his dining table. He was a nobleman and wouldn't let a speck of dust touch his hands. I can't drag him out to do farm work. My head would roll off before it even hit the ground. Seeing her distress, Claire asked worriedly, Lena, what's wrong? Did you see a bug? Leonida was in great distress, but couldn't tell anyone. Orty happened to see her and thought, it's not hot enough to get heat stroke, is it? Was that Theodore talking to Renatis? Odette mused, you've never taken a single day off. Renatis' face went blank. I've never left the mansion, she replied. Deja vu. Odette asked cheerfully, do I really need a break? Are my emergency reserves at risk again? Theodore waved a hand dismissively. It's not like that. It's just that the other employees take turns resting. I noticed you looked a little tense today, so why not take a day off to relax? Renatis felt a flicker of concern. I'm a bit worried today, but if I rest, then Mr. Theodore cut her off. It's fine as long as you don't stray too far from the mansion. Don't worry, Mr. Theodore has been sleeping well recently, so you don't need to be overly concerned. Renatis was surprised to hear that Theodore had been sleeping well. Don't the male leads in those angst-ridden stories usually suffer from nightmares and insomnia? She thought. That's why I went to such lengths to write this as a healing story. Is this one of those 19+ perks? Like those bodies that fully recharge after just 2 hours of sleep? She continued her internal monologue. Unlike the exhausted female leads, the male lead is full of energy from morning on. Odette decided, for his own good, I'll have to make sure Theodore gets proper rest from now on. Then, patting Renatis' shoulder, she said, anyway, working hard is good, but rest is also a chance to recharge, so you can tell me anytime. Renatis obediently nodded. Okay. With that said, Odette turned to leave. Well then, I'll be going. Renatis watched her go, wondering, did he really come all this way just to say that? My first impression of him wasn't great, she thought, but he does have his good points. Just then, Claire suddenly appeared in front of Odette. Mr. Odette, she shouted. Odette asked sternly, why are you shouting at me? Claire cowered. Claire, Odette, what about me? Odette replied impatiently. Yes, look at this situation. Renatis, watching from behind them, thought, oh dear, I take back my earlier charitable comment. Poor Claire, this won't do. I need to intervene a little. With that thought, she approached them. Odette sighed, and the next scene left Renatis slightly stunned. Odette gently patted Claire's head. Claire, equally surprised, went blank. With that, Odette walked away, instructing, be more careful next time. Renatis' jaw dropped. Oh my goodness, my romantic reader instincts are tingling. This is definitely, Claire called out softly, Rena, Mr. Odette just said he'd hit me on the head next time, and he's letting me off the hook this time. Claire, incredulous, comforted her friend. No way, that's not true. He patted my hand earlier to encourage me. Claire exclaimed, your hand? That definitely means he's going to break your hand. What did you do wrong, Rena? Renatis snapped, exasperated. You've been interpreting everything in such a terrifying way since earlier. More importantly, Claire, why are you in my room? Putting the other matter aside, Claire said, Renatis, I need to ask you a favor. Renatis, holding a piece of wood, nodded as she thought. Why won't this fire light? Claire's request wasn't difficult. As the weather grew colder, they took turns lighting the fireplaces in the evenings, including Theodore's room. She was asking Renatis to help her light the fireplace because it was her turn today. Renatis thought, I guess I can finish this before Theodore returns to his room. This fire would be perfect for roasting sweet potatoes, but now's not the time. Should I roast one secretly? Just then, Theodore appeared, asking, "Didn't you just eat?" Renatis, caught red-handed in her mischievous planning, stammered, "Mr. Theodore, what are you doing here? How long have you been standing there?" Her heart was practically leaping out her chest. Theodore said, "I don't believe tending the fireplace is your job. Is someone forcing you to do this?" Renatis' face went blank. What is he talking about? Is someone forcing you to do this? What did that even mean? Renatis hurriedly explained, "No, it's not like that, but why would you think I'm being forced to do this job?" Theodore replied, "Because you're not originally responsible for the fireplace. I heard another servant had some trouble recently," Renatis said. Wordy said it wasn't a big deal, but if you were to suddenly walk into the mansion, well, we were bullied. Noah was furious. "I was bullied. That's not fair," Renata murmured. "It really wasn't like that." Theodore, still curious, pressed on. "Then why do you do this job?" Renata hesitated, her mind flashing back to a few hours earlier. Renatis had asked Claire, "You were asked to light Sir Theodore's fireplace?" "It's not difficult, but what's wrong?" Seeing Claire's expression, Renatis wondered what had made her so hesitant. "Claire," Renatis had said, "you don't have to tell me if it's difficult to talk about." A strange sound echoed in the quiet space. A fart answered the question. Claire admitted sheepishly, "Lena dug up so many sweet potatoes today, so we had a lot of sweet potatoes for dinner, right? I ate too many, and my stomach has been acting up ever since." Renatis nodded. "I understand." The fart had spoken for her. Thank goodness she didn't fart in front of Orte, Renatis thought. Then Claire said, "It's a bit strange, but I'll give you a sweet potato. You can eat it later if you're hungry." Renatis realized it was one of the sweet potatoes they had dug up earlier. After she gave the sweet potato to Claire, she left. "But how should I explain this to Sir Theodore?" Then Renatis said, "I really want to help you, so you really don't have to worry too much." Theodore thought. It seemed she wasn't lying. Theodore asked again, "So, are you going to bake the sweet potato?" "I thought those were served as a side dish with the steak for dinner, right?" Renatis replied, "Those were baked in the oven. I'm talking about roasting it directly over the fire." Theodore wondered, "Isn't it the same? Doesn't it taste the same?" Renatis was slightly taken aback by these innocent questions. She earnestly explained, "Sweet potatoes roasted over a fire are much more delicious and sweeter. When you break open a freshly roasted sweet potato, you'll see the golden flesh. As you savor the warmth, blowing on it as you eat, the sweet fragrance of the sweet potato, it's truly delicious. The outside might be a little burnt, but that part is actually really good. Oh, and if you eat it with milk, it becomes even sweeter and richer." Then Theodore listened quietly as Renatis said, "You blow on it like this." Moved by her foodie spirit, Theodore suddenly said, "I want to eat some." Renatis was startled by this unexpected request. The gloomy 19-plus-year-old male protagonist suddenly looked at my face and said he wants to eat some? What does that mean? Theodore clarified, I mean the roasted sweet potato. A little while later, Theodore said with satisfaction, "It's delicious." Renatis chuckled softly. Right, she couldn't believe the sweet potato Claire had given her was being used like this. The brooding male lead was eating a roasted sweet potato. Renatis had never imagined the brooding male lead and a roasted sweet potato could coexist. She was even more surprised when he decided to eat it with his hands instead of using a fork and plate. For something like a roasted sweet potato, I should give him something more special and delicious to heal him, Renatis thought, but I've run out of ideas. The two of them continued to discuss the roasted sweet potato. The way Renatis had just thought of eating the sweet potato was actually Estra's idea. The memory of eating sweet potatoes with Lena still lingered in her mind. It's hot, so blow on it before you eat it. If you're hungry and try to eat it all at once, you'll burn your mouth, Renatis said. How did you know I was going to eat it all at once? She wondered aloud. Estra grinned. Well, Lena, I can read your mind just by looking at your face. Suddenly, Theodore broke the sweet potato in half and offered a piece to Renatis. Here, you want to eat some, right? Renatis quickly waved her hands. What? No, how could I eat with Sir Theodore? The next second, her stomach growled, a most unladylike rumble. Theodore remarked, Your stomach says it's all right to eat with me. Renata smiled at Riley and accepted. Then I'd be happy to partake. She took a happy bite. Delicious. Just then, Theodore suddenly asked, Is it the person you mentioned before? The person you love? Were you thinking about that person just now? Theodore looked at Renata. Seeing her suddenly cover her head with her hands, he asked, Are you worried I'll see your thoughts? Renata thought, Of course, that can't be possible, can it? Theodore, stifling a laugh, thought, It's written all over her face. Renata glanced up, realizing Mr. Theodore was smiling. Mr. Theodore is just like me after all. Was I overthinking it? I can be happy. Even without delicious food, even burnt potatoes and undercooked sweet potatoes, I was happy because I enjoyed them with my sister. I wonder if Mr. Theodore feels the same way. Well, I may not be the heroine, but at this moment, Theodore reached out and touched Renata's face, startling her. Mr. Theodore. The scene between the two of them suddenly felt like slow motion. Theodore suddenly brought his face closer. Renata was bewildered. What is he doing? Just then, Theodore said, "You have something on your face." Renata, the quintessential country bumpkin, quickly covered her mouth with her hand. She was mortified. I must have enjoyed the sweet potatoes so much that I got some on my face. How embarrassing. She panicked. What am I thinking? I must look so foolish. Just then, Theodore said again, "You got it on me too." Theodore stared at his smudged face. What? I have soot on my hands too. Nothing's going right for me. Was he laughing at me just now? Theodore watched her as she stood up, laughing, and asked, "Where's my handkerchief?" Renata hurriedly said, "It's all right. Your handkerchief will get dirty." Theodore replied, "It's fine. I can wash it." Renata thought, if it's Mr. Theodore's handkerchief, it must be expensive. She blurted out, "Then I can wash my face too, so it's all right." Theodore was puzzled. "Wash your face? What are you talking about?" Renata, embarrassed again, trembled, unable to speak, wanting only to flee. She quickly covered up. "I think I just need to wash my face. Not with this. Yes, I need to go wash my face quickly. I need to get out of here quickly. If I stay any longer, I'll die of embarrassment. So I'll excuse myself." With that, she dashed out the door. Theodore stood there, watching her hasty retreat. Renata poked her head back in, reluctantly saying, "I forgot to light the fireplace before I left." Theodore stood there, still smiling. Renata thought resignedly, well, as long as at least one person is happy. She attempted to blow on the embers. Theodore, calm now, watched the girl before him. She had pink hair that seemed to smell sweet. Actually, her lips looked sweet too. Sweat trickled down her throat, her breath coming in ragged gasps, and even the perspiration she exuded seemed sweet. Is it because she's a witch? But she's surprisingly clumsy and inexperienced. For starters, she doesn't even know she just told a lie, saying you had something on your face. If I touch her lips again, will she let me? What if I touch somewhere else? Or will she run away? Theodore was startled by his own thoughts. How far will she let me go if I don't go crazy? And if I do go crazy, how far can I go? Just then, Renata's call snapped him out of his reverie. "Mr. Theodore, can I go now? I'm all done. If you need me again, please call me, okay?" And with that, Renata finally walked out the door, breathing a sigh of relief. Finally done. What in the world happened while I was fulfilling Claire's request? I thought my heart was going to explode. Even though I'm not the heroine, my heart was pounding. Renatis suddenly remembered this wasn't the time. Susan will be furious with me for making her wait for the food. Theodore thought, she can't escape anyway. This isn't a place where some jerk can see her. She's right within my line of sight. So, no need to worry. If I reach out, she's within my grasp. Yes. Lena, seemingly oblivious to Theodore's inner turmoil, continued her pleasant day. The scene shifted to a forest. In truth, aimed his bow and arrow. The arrow found its mark. Renatis, standing behind him, watched with admiration. "Wow, you know archery." In truth, asked impatiently. "You again? When did you get here? Seriously, I know I'm cool, but it's not good for you to keep sneaking up on me like this." Renatis retorted indignantly. "I wasn't sneaking. I was just gathering herbs for tea. Why are you practicing so openly, instructor? This is the first time I've seen archery. I was so mesmerized, I stopped here unconsciously." Yes, in the novel, In Truth is described as a highly skilled knight, but there aren't many scenes of him using a bow or sword. His role is just to help the heroine escape, only to be brutally killed later on. In Truth said smugly, "It seems you came specifically to see my impressive archery skills." As he rambled on, Renatis thought, no wonder he has such a strong sense of self-importance as a character. He's truly conceited. While he was talking, Renatis noticed something behind him. Ignoring the man, she walked straight towards it. In Truth asked in surprise, "What are you doing?" Renatis picked up the bow and arrow. "Since you say it's so difficult, I'm just curious how much strength it takes to draw the bow if you're not trained. My body and mind should pull harder." The next second, Renatis said, "It's broken." She wondered worriedly, "Is it expensive?" In Truth froze, his jaw dropping. What in the world just happened?